Here we're live.
February 10th, 2025, regular town council meeting to order. All members of the council are present with the exception of Nina. She is remote. And if there are any Eagles fans in here, I have special seating for you outside. Would you please stand and join me with the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, a motion to approve the agenda. Council, I want to move 5C5 and 5G3 to the end of the meeting. There's a possibility that we will go into executive session, and I don't want to interrupt and bother the attendees in here. So again, 5C number 5, 5G3 will be placed following 5J or 1, whatever that is. Any other amendments? Motion to approve as amended. We have a motion to approve as agenda from Chris. We have a second from George. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion. Motion carries. Nina? Thank you. 7-0. Storm, are you going to sit in for Nina a little bit to help her with the minutes or whatever, if you could? I know it's kind of tough when she's trying to do it remotely. Public comment. I want all of you to keep your comments down to 3 minutes, please. And first would be, do we have a thing over there for Lisa?
It's
For the public.
And can we make them make sure they hold, because I listened back to a couple and it's hard to hear even if they've got it.
So if you're a member of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of you going for public comment, please make sure you hold this doohickey thing up and speak into this so that the recorder can pick it up, okay? Mr. John Van Vliet, you're recognized for 3 minutes.
Good evening, John Van Vliet, 600 Fillmore Street in Harpers Ferry. I just wanted to say we've been going through a process of made some applications to the town over the past couple months, and we appreciate everybody's participation in that. And I just want to emphasize that tonight we're here seeking a review of our application for a rezoning at 460 Washington. And I would just appreciate the action on that application. So, but I appreciate everybody's time and look forward to it. I have my attorney, Chris Peterson, with me. So if there are any questions, Chris's notes have been submitted as part of the Planning Commission report. So if there are any questions, that Chris is here to be able to answer any of those questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Help me, Mr. Shapiro. I'm assuming it's, I can't read the first name. Okay, thank you. You recognized for 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Nate Shapiro. I live on 156 Cavalier, and that's in Bolivar, Northside Harborsburg. I'm the owner of Happy Grant Coffee, which would be the potential business going into 460 Washington Street, which is the case of the amendment for rezoning. Now, these last few months, we've had a lot of meetings with the Planning Commission, and I feel like the town here has a good idea of what our end goal and mission is. So I just want to take this public comment as more of a reflection and appreciation of the process that brings us here today. It all started in fall when I approached John and Jennifer Van Vliet about opening a potential coffee shop at 460 Washington Street. From there, we know we had to rezone it to commercial, but we didn't know what to do. And the only person I knew on the town council or anything was Storm. So I approached Storm, who pointed me in the direction of Zach. And when I contacted Zach helped me all the way through the agenda, navigating the process of the Planning Commission. It was very helpful. Thank you, Zach. And while this was all going on, Jesse, the vice president of the Planning Commission, organized a meetup at the property with the members of the Planning Commission so they could see the property and what a unique location and special situation that we are in. All that came to the public hearing last month, and that public hearing was a really special moment for this town. Neighbors came together to embrace what we want to bring to the community. It was standing room only, and it was important. More importantly, it was civil and it was a peaceful gathering. After the public hearing, I spoke with Storm about how I felt everything went. That turnout of residents created newfound pressure for me to deliver everything we've talked about, and I reassured him that I thrive in pressure. But his response to me made me realize what was special about this place to live here. He said it's not pressure, it's support. And that's right. And that's the special aspect that we have here at Harpers Ferry and Bolivar, more than anything else, or anywhere else I've ever lived, is support. I see it through my wife's bakery every single day. Now, Mayor Vaughn, I want to thank you very much for your time tonight, and know that you have amazing people in this town, and I can't wait to create a special place for all of them. That's why I'm asking tonight that the town council approves our amendment for commercial zoning so that we can open the doors to the Stone House and create a community space for our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shapiro. Thank you. Mr. Costello, it's Daniel. Yes, sir.
Yes, hi, my name is Daniel Costello. I am a new resident in Charlestown, West Virginia. I just want to introduce myself and say I'm happy to be a part of this community. So I have actually been currently working to hopefully open a coffee shop here in Harpers Ferry, in the old funeral home just down the street. So just kind of working through some health department paperwork and things like that, and hopefully to submit to the city and everything. But I just want to introduce myself and say that I'm very happy to be here. I've worked with CMI in the Union Market before, as well as Old Time Christmas and helping to serve food around Christmas time. Just fell in love with the area. Yeah, I just want to give myself a proper introduction to everybody and say hi.
Welcome and thank you, Daniel. Miss Barbara Hume. Barbara?
That's a button here. Okay. My name is Barbara Humes, and I am commenting on agenda item number 5A, Roman numeral 2. I'm asking the town council to carefully consider the request for rezoning the property located at 460 Washington Street. While the overwhelming majority of those who spoke and sent in written public comments at the recent January 21st public hearing were in favor of a coffee house at this location, The coffee house is not the issue. The issue is spot-free zoning. I read the Planning Commission's report, which was posted on the town's website. Changing the zoning from residential to business could open the door for similar requests throughout the town. Since this particular property is surrounded by the Promontory Overlay Zone, originally created in 2015, I strongly urge the council to support action item 4C, located on the third page of the Planning Commission report, which would put 460 Washington Street inside the overlay zone. This would be a win-win for all parties by allowing a business to operate at the desired location while retaining the residential underlying zoning status of residential. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Chris Peterson, recognized for 3 minutes.
My name is Chris Peterson. I'm an attorney. I'm here on behalf of the Van Fleets. I am not a resident. Although my first job was downtown, so I think that counts for something. I'd like to speak on a couple of things. And one, Barbara, in contrast to what you just said, the fear over spot zoning. I understand that fear, but the fact is that there is a road paved for this in the ordinances. This is something that the applicant is allowed to apply for, and we can't deny it out of fear that other people would seek the same relief. We have a right, and that's what we're about. Also, I think it's important to recognize, as we've all learned over the last couple months, how fact-specific and how property-specific this is as well. It tailors to that specific property. If the property meets the guidelines or if there's a substantial change, then it qualifies. If not, it doesn't. So I think any fear of spot zoning or extra applications, those would be, handled in turn as they should be. And as for the fear of, I think to back up onto the substantial change, I think that's why we're here. The TDD puts all of the property around it. It's overlaid, but it's also now covered by this TDD. And the TDD says specifically, Swan doesn't need to listen to your ordinances. It can go to Jefferson County and look at theirs. And as part of that, it has decided that all these properties should be rezoned to commercial mixed use. And under that, one of their explicitly allowed permitted uses is retail, coffee shops, restaurants. So we have a situation where all the property that used to be houses around this property can now be coffee shops owned by an out-of-state corporation, but local members of the community cannot do the same with theirs. So I think that you both have the legal grounds and the moral obligation to pass this. Thank you. And I'm available if anybody has any questions as well.
Thank you, Chris. Tim Weiscarver, recognized for 3 minutes.
You can do it like this. Good evening. I have a letter from you shortly. Dear Mayor and members of the Town Council.
I can barely hear.
Hello. Is that better?
Oh, the microphone doesn't amplify. It goes out to, yeah.
What am I doing wrong?
You're doing fine. Just speak a little louder. Speak in your usual voice, Tim.
Yeah.
My students. Dear Mayor and members of the Town Council, I write to you about the current written report dated February 3rd, a total of 64 pages and 4 appendices that you have from the Planning Commission on the coffee shop rezoning request. The present report is inaccurate and complete as follows. Inaccurate. The votes, that is the comments for and against, are not counted correctly. Mr. Wayne Bishop is counted 3 times, 2 against and 1 for. Mrs. Elaine Adele is counted twice, 2 against. While this miscount, no doubt inadvertent, does not significantly change the picture, nonetheless, there is no reason not to correct the count. The correct count should be 34 and 6 against. Incomplete. A 1-page letter on zoning was allowed by Councilman George Owens. a 4-page analysis summary and reflection by Commissioner Jesse Melton, pros and cons. A 2-page summary and reflection by Commissioner Tim Weinscarver, pros and cons. An 8-page neighborhood commercial zones for Upper Town Harpers Ferry, including maps, history by Councilman Storm DeConstanza. A 2-page opinion on spot zoning from the West Virginia Law Clinic, and the notes of Mr. Chris Peterson, attorney for the owners. All these documents, 1 through 6, were requested to be entered into the record for this case, and all were accepted. Further, omitted from the application for the change of zoning, the first 2 pages of the original and the last 4 pages, pages 360 to 364 of the Jefferson County Deed Book, wherein is described the parcel conveyed by Mr. Stanhagen to Mr. Johnson, and most importantly, is granted, quote, a perpetual non-exclusive easement for purposes of ingress and egress. That is missing. So is the plat. An omitted letter, a public comment from Ms. Amanda McDaniel, who voted for. The rezoning change request is complicated. There are strong arguments both for and against, and your task is not an easy one. Our task, the Planning Commission, is to provide you as complete a picture as possible, everything that we have, to make use of in your deliberations as you see fit. Sincerely yours, Tim Weinscarver, Planning Commission.
Thank you, Tim.
May I
Appreciate it.
may I ask a question of Joyce?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mayor's, say something? Mayor's comments, I only have 2 real short ones. Council, you should know that we are ready for the storm, hopefully tomorrow and the next day. Everybody's geared up. I'm dropping shovels off to all of your houses. And then the other thing, Council, I have authorized John Brown and Steve, if so needed, if they have to bring in their personnel to put them up in a motel instead of, because most of the water department employees live in the Martinsburg area and north, and many of our police officers live in that area. I don't want them traveling back and forth, so we'll put them up at the motel, and I've given that authorization.
Need a motion for anything to that effect? Need a motion or anything to that
No.
effect? Okay, thank you.
No. And so that, anyway, that's all I have. Nina, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just a reminder to send an email to the recorder at Harpers Ferry email address if you'd like to stay on the newsletter. We will be redoing our newsletter mailing list shortly because we are reaching sort of the capacity of that. So just a reminder, if you want to be included on that, send an email and I'll make sure that you're included when we redo that list.
Thank you, Nina. Community, Hilltop, okay. Superintendent is here. It's always a pleasure having you here, Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay. Y'all threw me tonight. I usually go after Chief Brown. So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, nice to see you again. I only have 2 updates tonight. One is that in January, the National Park Service provided a letter to the Hagerstown Eastern Panhandle Metropolitan Planning Organization supportive of the proposed Harpers Ferry Strategic Infrastructure Enhancements Project, for which was put in for an FY25 grant from the USDOT. Next, our annual peregrine falcon nesting closure will go into place on February 15th. Staff has observed a pair of adult peregrines at Maryland Heights. So we are anticipating another nesting season. The closures, which affect 5 climbing routes on Maryland Heights, may be in effect through July. This, of course, depends on the peregrines' activity. Those are my updates for this evening.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any member of the council have a community announcement to make? Storm?
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. This is a general statement about community. right now, there's no direct parallel to what's happening in our country. And as elected officials, we took a pledge to uphold the Constitution. And I take that responsibility very seriously. And I know that everyone at this table can say the same. And if serious adversity comes to our doorstep, it will be the strength of our community and our connections with our neighbors that will see us through. And let us remember every day that what we share in common is greater than our differences, and that we're stronger when we stand together. So thank you.
Thank you, Star. Roberta?
Thank you for saying that. That you got me choked up. So thank you. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of the Planning Commission's hearing that was moved to the Community Center for the February 11th hearing for the water bottling plant. So go ahead and get on the Planning Commission's website to get the correct location. I hope many of you attend and we give our opinion on how we feel about this water bottling plant taking our water. Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of clarification, that's the Jefferson County Planning Commission, not us.
Oh, thank you.
Chris, anything for the community?
Well, that was my main announcement. I also wanted to let everyone know that Trail in Town is planning a spring cleanup. Traditionally, we've done something over across the river on the C&O Canal, and we're not feeling like that is real needy right now, and we're opting to look at sites in Harpers Ferry and Bolivar. So if anyone has suggestions, we're going to be considering that Monday night, and you could let me know, or possibly go through the town office and they'll let me know.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Zach?
This is a community announcement from Parks and Rec. The Harpers Ferry Parks and Rec Commission is holding the second annual Harpers Ferry Film Festival at Mather Training Center on Friday, March 21st and Saturday, March 22nd from 6 to 9 p.m. each night. Doors will open at 5:30. Different films will be shown each night. Friday will feature an adventure film. Saturday will feature a horror film for suggested audience of 13 and older. This film was partially filmed at Harpers Ferry, which is why it's on there.
The horror one.
Sorry?
The horror one, I guess.
Yes. Possibly parts of both. Tickets will be available through Eventbrite like last year. They can be purchased at the town hall as well. $20 per night or $30 for both nights. Flyer will be coming soon with additional information on the films.
Thank you, Zach. All right, as Nina, I only have December 9. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. I need to review again January 13th. So just approving December 9th.
Okay.
Today. There were 2 spelling errors that were pointed out to me. One typo for council and one typo for cookie. Cookie was in 5B3 and council was in 7AI, which have been corrected. So I'd like to move to approve the December 9th meeting minutes with the aforementioned spelling corrections and postpone the approval of January 13th meeting minutes until our next meeting.
There's a second on the motion, second from Chris, discussion on the motion.
I have some
Go
discussion. The meeting minutes were just sent to us today, so I apologize. I didn't have time to look at this. So I'd like to postpone even the December 9th, 2024 until our next meeting.
Are you amending the motion?
I can, yes. I'd like to amend the motion that we postpone December 9th, 2024 meeting minutes as well until our next meeting.
There's a second on the amendment? Hearing no second, the amendment fails. Any other discussion on the main motion?
I just have one point.
Go ahead.
Is that, Roberta, if you notice any issues, you can bring them to me and I can make them an amendment next month to be adjusted in the minutes.
All right, I appreciate that, Nina.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve? Opposed? Motion carries 6-1. Item number 5A, Planning Commission report. Zach?
I'm going to forgo a report in order to get to item 5A2.
I'm sorry.
No full Planning Commission
Okay.
reports. We can get to 5A2.
All right, so let me introduce 5A2. 5A2 will be discussion and action on rezoning request for 460 Washington Street. Zach, after you're gonna give your synopsis, summary, or whatever of the report, then I will assume the chair back again and lead us into how we're gonna go through this, okay?
I do have a motion prepared after the report.
Okay, you may want you to hold off on that motion until after the report.
Okay.
All right.
This was introduced in public comment, but for the record, I'll go through this. You have a rather large 64-page report that I put together for you on behalf of the Planning Commission that details the history of this. In December, we officially received the application for rezoning from the Van Vliet family. Their desire is to put a coffee shop in 460 Washington Street, which is currently zoned residential. Residential zoning in Harpers Ferry would not allow for that, hence the request for the change. It is currently surrounded by lots that are base zone residential, but have the promontory overlay zone over top of them. So this is governed by Article 1329, which is zoning and amendments to zoning. By default, we do have 195 days to handle this. I do not think it should take that long, but we shouldn't feel a time pressure in the sense of there being an ordinance time pressure on us. However, I do think we should move this forward to support the folks who presented the application. On January 21st, the Planning Commission held a public hearing. At that public hearing, we had 17 people speak in favor. I do have the sign-up sheet here if anybody wants to count it. I know there were some questions about the numbers I put in here. I included everybody who spoke at the meeting, and I also included all of the written comment we received. Whether or not you increase or decrease that, as Tim said, by 1 or 2, there was an order of magnitude more folks speaking in favor of this than opposed to it. I think that's important to reflect. After that public hearing, the Planning Commission had a regular meeting. We discussed this. Oh, I should also note, again, as I think John mentioned, it was a very positive public hearing. I want to thank the public for that. I think it was a good meeting. At a regular meeting afterwards, we continued to discuss this. That discussion resulted in the motion that I believe Jesse made, which was to advance it to the town council for a final decision. Although that motion itself was fairly neutral in its wording, I do want to express that the Planning Commission was generally supportive of this, as indicated by the votes: 6 in favor, 1 opposed, no abstentions. There are a few different paths forward to possibly bring this to fruition, which I enumerated in section 4 of the report, which we can discuss. I do have a motion prepared when we're ready for that. And I think that was all I needed to cover. If you have any questions, I'm here. We've got a bunch of folks here to answer them.
Okay. Thank you, Zach. I'm going to retain the floor, and I've got a few questions, Zach, that I want to get clarified. And then what I'm going to do is to go around, and if any of you have similar questions, put them on the floor now. I don't want to relitigate this issue. Let's not go and talk about this ad nauseum. So try to get through this as quickly as possible. Council, I will be referring to my questions. Most of my questions will be contained in this if you want to try to follow along. On page 2, Zach, and under point number 3, you indicated that 6 members of the PC voted in favor of the motion and 1 member opposed.
Yes.
Who was the member that opposed?
It would be reflected in the recording. I believe that was Roberta Mead.
Okay. Do you have a sense of what the reason that Roberta was opposed to it?
I do. I imagine she can speak to it.
Well, I'd rather have you summarize. I don't want to get into a relitigation of it.
I think there's a number of different ways you can look at this and a bunch of different solutions to it. Roberta has a different preferred solution and a number of specific questions related to Article 1329. There's a list A through M, which the Planning Commission is meant to go through and address each of those points and decide whether this qualifies for rezoning, as well as comparing it to the current land use around it and the comprehensive plan. I think there may have been some differences of opinion of how each of those A through M are met or met by the application, but the majority of the Planning Commission did feel that it was enough to hold this up.
Okay. Page 2. The last sentence on page 2. And that page states, quote, "It should be stated that this recommendation from the Planning Commission is non-binding and the town council is free to make a final decision as members see fit. I don't know what that means exactly. To me, it seems contradictory and confusing. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I understand well, there's nothing, from my perspective, Zach, there's nothing in the PC's motion that can be binding or not binding. There's nothing in the motion that's binding or not binding. All the motion states is that you're going to advance the matter to the town council. What exactly is non-binding about sending something to the council? That's where I get confused.
I just wanted to put a sentence in there to reflect that the planning commission is recommendatory only, and so anything in this report is a recommendation. It's not something that the town council must comply with. I wanted to make sure that that sentence was in the report to be clear that this is a suggestion. The entire report is a suggestion from the planning commission, but not a requirement.
Okay. Page 3 at the bottom. You state that while the planning commission did not specifically endorse one of the above paths, and they would be path A, path B, and path C, with the motion that was made, each warrants discussion and consideration by members of the town council. Now, I personally think that it would have been very beneficial if the planning commission could have made a preferred course of action recommendation available to this council. And the reason for that is, I think that the planning commission consists of a group of 7 bright members of the community, and surely a consensus of a proposed course of action possibly could have been achieved. Did you discuss a single proposed course of action, and if so, what was that course of action and what was the discussion?
So there's long discussions at multiple meetings. I think that based on all of the public comment received, there's a strong urge that we want to support this idea, at least the idea of the coffee shop. But noting, even though there were a few folks opposed to fully rezoning, and so the ideas were batted around. Can you do conditional zoning? Turns out you cannot by state law. You can have conditional use, but not conditional zoning. Zoning applies to the land or the lot itself, not to an owner or a specific business. So then the idea of expanding the promontory overlay district to include this lot was brought up, and I got the sense that a lot of folks were in favor of that, because if we're careful with the way we amend it, we can allow for the coffee shop in the overlay without changing the base zoning. So all of these things were discussed. The final motion was meant to sort of be a blanket endorsement of the idea. There were a few amendments that were tried to be made to specify that, but that didn't come through in the final vote. So we just pushed it forward in general.
Okay.
Yep.
Page 3, option number C.
Yep.
You indicate that the quote town council could move to add 460 Washington Street to the promontory overlay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
My question is, and I don't know the answer to this, does the town council have this annotated authority to add a private parcel of land to the promontory without the owner petitioning the town council to be included in the overlay?
I can answer that in 2 different ways. The ordinance itself, 1313, does specify rules for privately owned properties that are not a part of the hotel group. So in that sense, we can add a property to it regardless of who owns it. At several meetings, it was discussed from the applicants that they were in favor of any option that moved this forward. And so that sort of middle of the road option was discussed quite a bit. There's a few different options we can take. So that's only one of them. But I got the sense from all the meetings that the applicants were in favor of anything that got the doors to the coffee shop open.
Okay. And again, I don't know the answer to this one either. Has a determination, Jack, been made that the TDD trumps the promontory overlay?
That's a good question. That has come up quite a bit. From everything I have personally read in the state law that establishes the TDD and the agreement that creates this specific TDD, there's nothing that says our zoning does not apply within there. It does refer to different management, which has eventually ended up at the county. You could speak to legal counsel to figure this one out. I think that's probably a good thing to do moving forward. I believe I don't know if I can speak to the entire planning commission, but at least I am of the opinion that our zoning does still apply to some degree.
Okay. I mean, we got this elaborate part of our ordinance, promontory overlay. And it might be worth contacting Ken Sayer and determine, is that a moot part of our ordinance now? I mean, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. It's tricky because the planning commission can only consider, well, it can consider the land use around it, and that land use is effectively created by our zoning.
Right.
So this is the first time this has really come up, and I think part of the reason it's taken so many meetings to get here is that it's a new legal precedent, possibly for the state of West Virginia, because it's the first tourism development district. If our zoning does not apply, then all of the land that borders this particular property has land use that the planning commission itself never approved. It makes it very difficult for us to assess. In general, we want to make sure that land use is similar across the board for different sections of town. So it puts us in a complicated spot.
Yeah, I think we just ought to look at this promontory issue a little bit closer. Anyway, my final thing, Zach, real quick, is on page 2. You state that, quote, zoning persists if a lot is sold or a business changes. Zoning of each lot must be consistent with the surrounding zoning and with both the anticipated future land use and town goals described in the comp plan, unquote. And the question I have, if zoning must be consistent with the surrounding zoning, would not a change to commercial zoning for the Van Vliet property be consistent with the surrounding zoning?
That's another good question. It depends on how you interpret it. If you look at the zoning map, I did send a copy to Deb. If you want to pull it up, it's on the wall. It's up pieces in the report as well. If you just look at the map and consider our zoning, the thing you can do to make it the most consistent is keep the base residential zoning, add it to the promontory overlay, and that matches everything around it. If legal opinion is that our zoning does not apply within the TDD, then we either need to create a new designation or sort this out. If we swore to uphold our ordinances, everything that's written in our ordinances, and if you look at the map, which is now up, everything around this is yellow with blue lines around it. So if we make the dogs are not part of this.
Oh,
That's the dog district.
there we go.
Okay. So from a pure perspective of our ordinances, bringing that blue line down and making this exclave part of that overlay would make it consistent. There, again, based purely on our zoning, the only things that are truly zoned business or commercial are the hilltop, or where the hilltop used to be, the lodge building, and then the daycare center across the way. It depends on what scope we take for this. I think there's, as I tried to enumerate the report, different steps, ways to get this done. And I think that the community supports this coffee shop. So I think there's multiple ways to get those doors open.
Okay.
But it's up to us to figure that out.
All right, thanks, Zach. I'm going to start down on this end of the table with George. I'm going to work all the way around to Storm and then Nina. George, do you have any questions, clarifications you'd like to put on the table now before we get to a motion?
Yes, I have. One, I'd like to see this coffee house happen with the least amount of obstruction. I wished I'd received some documentation. One of our citizens contacted the state that was board that was in charge of the GDD and asked about the zoning issue. And they were informed by the state that the zoning issue had not been considered in the construction of the GDD. Well, I don't have anything, documentation to present that at this time, but it seems to me that we're in a very gray area, and I think that we ought to move forward as expeditiously as possible. And with that, I'll sit back. Thank you.
Okay, Chris.
Well, I have one thing to add on the history of that property relating to the promontory overlay. that when the town's zoning map was laid out back around 2014, initially it was offered to the prior owner to be included in the promontory overlay. And at first he said yes. And then later, for unknown reasons, changed his mind. So it does have some special background there. I have some real concerns about going there without some real clear legal guidance, because in my mind it would be a single property in an overlay that was basically set up to move the hotel forward and provide the town control over the hotel, and that has really been supplanted by the TDD. So I'm not sure I see the advantages. And as far as the whole issue of the zoning change to business, I guess we're going to have a chance to address that maybe when the motion's made, or that's all I'm really saying anymore.
Thank you. Roberta, you have anything?
Yes, I have, bear with me, sir, I have some substantial information. I do have a tally, and I appreciate Tim Weisberger bringing up the tally. And I also am not in favor of the PC report. I think the PC report is not complete, it's inaccurate, it doesn't reflect what was really done at the PC. So with all due respect, that I cannot support the PC report submitted. The vote I have is much different. In fact, if you really listen to what people said, they supported a coffee shop, which is a use, and they supported a rezoning, which is what the application is. So rezoning and uses are two different things when we're dealing with land development and zoning code. So my tally is much different, and I have this for you, but basically it breaks down to I have 7 that supported the use of a coffee shop, plus 2 that supported the coffee shop who were members of the Bolivar community. I'm not sure we count Bolivar. I don't know how we do this. You'll have to tell us what the history is. I have 5 supporting a rezoning, okay, with 3 of those, which I understand. I thought you guys were members of the Harpers Ferry community. You just said tonight that you're members of the Bolivar, you live in Bolivar. So I had to readjust my numbers. So 5 for the rezoning, 3 for the rezoning coming from Bolivar. The letters were 1 supporting the use, again, the coffee shop, and 8 supporting the rezoning. 7 letters came in objecting to the rezoning, okay? 2 more letters for a total of 3 were from Bolivar persons. 2 of them supported the coffee shop use. 1 of them supported the rezoning. And the attorney I left as neutral, as he should be. He's there representing the client. So I counted him, his comments as neutral across the board. So in my tally, I had 28 persons that we actually received comments from, with 5 of them being from Bolivar, which if I total it up, it's 28% reporting that gave us comments. That's less than 1% of the population of the town. So that's a consideration. Well, this is going to be so important of a decision. It's only less than 1% of the community that we heard from. Also, in response to 1329.04C, where the proposed rezoning fails to comply with this, where it says the last amendment of the comprehensive plan was 2013. It says in paragraph C that the town council, before adopting such a proposed amendment, must find, with the advice of the planning commission, that there have been major changes of economic, physical, or social nature within the area involved which were not anticipated with the comprehensive plan when the comprehensive plan was adopted, and that those changes have substantially altered the basic characteristics of the area. That is critical because the Planning Commission did not even discuss 1329.04 paren C at all. We didn't discuss any of those criteria that the town council is looking for advice tonight. And in fact, the advice is not even contained in the report that you received. And you pointed that out very well in your questions. Many of the questions you asked yourself, Mayor, I had questions. We need legal counsel on several of those items. We don't know if we're making the right decision. We haven't discussed it in enough depth to know that we have the authority or the right to make the decision. See. So I beg to differ that the Planning Commission report is incomplete. We haven't addressed 1329.04C, and also the application itself doesn't meet 1329.04B. It is not in compliance with at least 3 points I have from the comprehensive plan. I won't read all this, but I cannot support this right now. We did not go into any depth in the Planning Commission, nor have we gone in further depth with his town council on how we really need to proceed. 3 of those people at that hearing said they would just like to see something move forward. What is the something? Okay, so they didn't really say one way or the other that they were for the coffee shop or the rezoning. They want something, but they don't know what. So I'd like to have additional time allowed. Thank you.
Thank you. Storm, you have any comment?
Yeah, just briefly. So one, as far as if it were to be made part of the overlay district, what is that process? How long would it take?
Go ahead.
I believe the process is it's an ordinance amendment. So in theory, it goes to ORC. They come back to us presumably as quick as our next meeting with an amendment to Article 1313. Article 1313 lays out all of the properties that are in the overlay district, and so we have to amend it to include 460 Washington Street. And then it's a motion, I think, to just amend the zoning map to move the line. But it's within the town council's authority to do that.
And would that be through the first and second reading to accomplish that?
Yeah, 1329 doesn't specifically say. It does say that the mayor has to sign off, and this does have to go up to the county for finalization, like you would with a lot line adjustment. I think it's as simple as a motion to amend zoning that is signed off, or amend the zoning map.
Okay.
So typically, I should say, a comprehensive plan generally includes a land use map, and that land use map is sort of the seed from which all of the zoning sprouts. The 2013 amendment to the comprehensive plan does not include a specific land use map, which throws this process into a bit of a wobble.
Right, it doesn't include future land use.
It doesn't include a future land use map. It includes the current zoning map, I believe. So we can either treat the current zoning map as the land use map, because those are for the most part contiguous, and it would be it would normally be a motion to amend the comprehensive plan to adjust the land use map. In this case, I think we can just do a motion to amend the zoning map because that is what we have. And I do know, although it doesn't apply to this discussion, that the update to the comprehensive plan that is coming will include a full land use map so that in the future this process is a bit more in line with state code.
Okay, so it sounds like it's not really known how long it may take. There are also legal questions.
I think we can do it pretty quickly, but I think that we also, if we need, we do have time if we want to get some questions answered.
And then I'll note that the Planning Commission agenda item was about the rezoning of the property. So anybody who was speaking in favor of the coffee shop who was not explicitly addressing other solutions would have been expressing their support for the rezoning.
Anything else, Norm?
No, thank you.
Okay, Anina, your turn.
Yeah, I know this has been said a few times. I just want to like triple check and clarify. So the proposal is that this property would become part of the Promontory Overlay District, correct? So be added to the list of parcels that are within that overlay?
That's one.
Yeah, there's a bunch of the request is to rezone it in such a way that allows for a coffee shop to exist. That there's multiple different ways that can go forward. One would be to include it in the overlay. Another would be to go fully to commercial. And the town council. Sorry, go ahead.
Would going fully commercial, so within Article 1313, there is a line item, 1313.04 regarding structures and how they have to maintain historical district standards. Would commercial structures have to abide by that as well, or is that separate?
What section are you reading, Dana? I'm sorry.
1313.04. It's number 3A.
It is specifically called out in the overlay district, which, as Chris noted, was originally conceived to guide the development of the hotel and adjacent properties. It could effectively be looked at as just a district of town now, although the majority of the properties are still owned by the hotel development group. There's different permutations. If this remains residential base zoning and is included, those restrictions to the architecture do apply. I think even if it went commercial, those restrictions still apply.
Yep.
And regardless of if it is in the overlay or not, Appendix A of our ordinances still applies. Although I should note that the applicants don't have any major plans to change the exterior of the building from its current
Correct.
state.
And that's my only concern is just that, so if we change the zoning of the structure, it could pass through hands. And if we don't have something sort of outlined now, we could open up like some sort of can of worms as far as making sure that businesses are maintaining historic standards within the town limits. So that's my only concern. That was kind of what Article 1313 was kind of nice, is that it very clearly outlines that anything within that district has to maintain those standards. So that's why I was just looking to see if there was something similar for commercial properties that was outlined anywhere. Okay, and then my other question was, have the adjacent neighbors been spoken to regarding the property? Did they come and present at planning or speak at planning?
That's another good question. On that side of the street, all of the surrounding property is owned by the hotel group, and the representative did not speak. One citizen who lives across the street and down a few lots did speak. She was one of the few who was gently opposed, not necessarily to the coffee shop in general, but to that specific location as it is in the middle of the residential block. But directly across the street, I know there's other private property owners who do not live there full time and did not speak at the public hearing.
Has there been any plan made regarding parking or any discussion regarding parking in that area?
That is one of the elements that should be considered, it's in the A through M, different things for a commercial lot. The lot itself is adjacent to a section of Washington Street where there's not parking spaces, but just a few. I think the next lot up, there are paid parking spaces on Washington Street. And there is an easement for parking at that property. Technically, if you can envision the property in your mind, you have the stone house and then sort of a small driveway. That driveway is actually a part of the lot to the east, and they have the permanent access easement to use that.
And as presented at the Planning Commission meeting I attended, it was discussed of that having that stretch of Washington Street parking as well as really foot traffic, both from residents in the neighborhood and other people that were in town.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can look at that two sides of the same coin. There's plenty of traffic and foot traffic to support the business. It is surrounded by a bunch of residential properties, so congestion of foot traffic or drive-in traffic is something that the Planning Commission and Town Council needs to consider in this, whether that's major or minor consideration.
I feel it's a misrepresentation to say it's surrounded by residential properties. Are certainly not occupied properties. It's kind of by its own.
And it would also be misrepresentation to say it's surrounded by commercial.
I believe that it would be proper to say it's surrounded by commercial. The TDD is an explicitly commercial enterprise.
I think that all we can.
Legal opinion on that.
Yeah, I think all we can say is that it's surrounded by something that our ordinance says is an overlay with base zoning. When 1313 was created, although it was for a different purpose, the folks who worked on it back then did not make that entire district commercial. They created this special district to reflect that this is part of it's sort of a transition between a commercially used asset, the hotel, and the residential properties surrounding it. So from that consideration of future land use, then the overlay is sort of the closest thing we have to transitional or blended zoning.
Nina, Nina, do you have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Dear Vaughn, we did commission, Storm brought up something that I had to need to ask Zach, and I'll be real quick.
Go ahead.
It's my understanding with 1313, the only revision necessary in that ordinance is to put the name of the lot. Is that true?
I think there's two considerations that because 1313.04, I think it's E2, I have it written down somewhere, that specifically governs lots east of Columbia Street that are not owned by the hotel. It gives very specific set of sub-uses. They're vague enough that you could say coffee shop would be fine. If we do want to go that route, I think we would be best off to clarify coffee shop as an accepted conditional use.
Well, okay, so if all we're doing is putting in, just for the root, all we're doing is putting in the name of the lot and putting in the words coffee shop, I don't see why that would have to go by the ORC. It's not rocket science and nothing to recall it deliberation. I could think we could go to a first reading, I mean, if necessary, even this evening.
Well, the overlay district is in the ordinances.
Well, I'm saying an ordinance, the revision is so, I mean, it is of consequence. So we'd have to go to the readings. But I'm saying the ORC, I don't think we need to sit there and opine about the name of a lot and the two words coffee shop. So, I mean, if we want to get this thing rolling, that could be cut out a month. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, Roberta.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I did do a detailed report similar to the one I did with the Planning Commission, added some comments. So I'd like that copy of my report issued for item agenda 5A2 to be submitted into the record and attached to the meeting minutes when we're finalized with the meeting minutes. But to answer some of your questions, I believe if you put something into the promontory note, the town Planning Commission, as you asked, sir, doesn't have the authority to do that. It's a text amendment. It has to go through a public hearing. It has to follow the criteria for a text amendment and a zoning map amendment. So we have to follow that criteria, almost like what we're doing right now. We had a petition from an applicant and a public hearing. And again, back to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission gives their heads up, yes or no, and forwards it to the town council. So it has to follow the same thing. So we could do a series of special meetings to get it through, but we have to follow the criteria and allow for public notice and everything like that. So one thing that I do want to make you understand, I did put it in my report, I quoted some things right out of the TDD. Okay, and the TDD specifically said it left its residential zoning in place for a reason. That reason is, quote unquote, this land use is of a unique nature since the existing of the Hilltop House Hotel has existed before and next to a residential neighborhood for 130 years. The residence the applicant owns within the TDD will be restored to the historic elements and act as a residential transition buffer to the rest of the town and to the hotel. So that means that they already understand that they have to maintain it as a residential buffer. If this project goes forward as commercial or business, it gets rezoned, it has to maintain a 25-foot buffer, just like the hotel does on their property. If I put a 25-foot buffer and a 25-foot buffer and a 25-foot buffer on three sides of this little piece that they're proposing, they can't meet that criteria. So we're already automatically looking at a non-conforming use, a non-conforming zoning, and we would have to force them to go to the BZA to get a reduction of that 25-foot buffer that they would be required to have if we rezoned it to commercial. What I would like to do is suggest to this town council, since the mayor and I and maybe others do not feel that the Planning Commission report has met the criteria that it should have met with 1329.04C. We're missing a lot of parts and pieces. We've asked for legal advice. I believe 3 of us at this round has asked for additional legal advice. I think we need to take the time to find it, to get that legal advice. And I would like to seriously have this town council consider getting that legal advice, have Ken Sayer come in before us, and we ask those questions of him, and we get it face to face from him. We do not have a private meeting with the mayor. We hear from Ken Sayer face to face what the answers to our questions are, and we get it and we hear it firsthand. So I think that would be prudent of us, it would be intelligent of us, it would be smart of us, and probably relieve us of any liability that we might be opening ourselves up to. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just correct the record. The comment that the mayor doesn't feel the PC met this, that, or the other. The only person that knows that is the mayor. So I just don't like people speaking for the mayor. Chris, and then Zach.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Roberta has mentioned a lot about usage, the question of use rather than zoning, and I think it's very, very important that we all understand that a coffee shop would not be a permitted use or a conditional use in the residential zone. So there has to be, if the business goes forward, it has to involve a change of zoning. Now, where I do agree with Roberta, I think, I didn't follow you on everything, but I think that the promontory overlay does add a bunch of questions and complications that I'm not sure it's worth going to. It sounds like a little bit more of a control, but it's kind of designating a whole new entity, a whole new jurisdiction, special jurisdiction in this town. So I would argue against going that direction.
Okay. Zach?
2 things. One, the planning commission report to the town council is mentioned in Article 1329, but it doesn't specify what should be contained in that report. So I just did my best to give you everything. Maybe in the future we give some additional guidance on that. So hopefully, I know there's some questions, but I think the report's good on its own. And to address what Chris just said, I think it is worth it to consider because it would then match most directly the land use surrounding that lot. To go, I want to see this happen. I'm slightly hesitant to go if we switch from residential to business and being the only lot in the area like that does set it apart. It's something we need to consider carefully.
Okay. Storm.
Yeah, I feel that from what I'm hearing, heard here, that it would be very complex to add it to the overlay district. And as Chris pointed out, I don't feel it's the proper tool for it. I think it will open more questions. As far as the TDD goes, I'm looking at the West Virginia Development Office's agreement with SWAN, and particularly the phrase that WVDO acknowledges and agrees that it's reviewed the master plan and has determined that the master plan is consistent with the intent and purposes of the Tourism Development District Act. So what they submitted, and if you look at the master plan, every bit of it is explicitly commercial.
If I can,
I'd like to see that. Can you break that out? Because I don't disagree with that.
I agree that the state does have the ability to manage the project and approve the project itself. However, there is no explicit language that says our zoning doesn't apply. So then you're in this weird legal zone where they can approve something that technically does not follow our zoning. And then that's a new territory that I don't know how you resolve. But whether that, that has not come up, so maybe it never will. But I don't know. I
also don't see any obstruction to not rezone it. That's simply.
Okay. All right, anything else before I turn it over to Zach for a minute?
I have a motion or two to try and get this going. So
Right.
when we're ready for that.
Go ahead.
I have a couple. So if the first one doesn't go, then we can try again. I move that in support of the coffee shop concept presented by Mr. Shapiro and the Van Fleet family, the town council direct the ordinance review committee to amend the Harpers Ferry Ordinance Article 1313 with the following two specific edits. One, add parcel 51, also known as 460 Washington Street or Lot 4 Block E, to the list of addresses included in the Promontory Overlay District in Article 1313-04A2, and two, add, quote, coffee shop, unquote, to the list of allowable conditional uses in Article 1313-04E2A, with the presentation of these two amendments for first reading at the March 2025 regular town council meeting and amendment of the Harpers Ferry zoning map immediately following their adoption.
I second that.
I'd like to amend the motion. I'd like to amend the motion that, provided everything just mentioned in the primary motion is reviewed by legal counsel, and legal counsel comes to this town council and tells us the pros and cons of what the statement that Zach just made for the motion is.
Your second on the amendment? Amendment fails. The discussion on the main motion,
Yes.
Jack?
As I said, this is one option. I feel like we should discuss each one. So I want to put this out there for everyone to say.
We'll have Roberta first,
I
and
don't.
then
sorry.
Chris.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I don't believe we heard from everybody on this table that they're for your motion, Zach. I don't believe all of us agreed or feel that we want to put this in the promontory. I don't think we've heard that from all of us here. All of us had lots of questions first. Some of us are still uncertain whether we legally can proceed. Some of us don't even know what the text amendment really will do. Some of us don't even know if the applicant should really be applying for the text amendment versus town council applying it for them. I think that in itself is wrong. I think if the applicant wants their property in the promontory, then the applicant should make that application. You may be opening us up to legal problems if we ourselves, the town council, takes it on. So I don't think that we've come to that conclusion tonight. Your motion does not reflect what the discussions were here tonight. And I don't think we're ready to make that motion. I think we need legal counsel. Thank you.
Point of clarification that a motion is just a motion. The votes on the motion reflect the feel of the council.
Thank
you.
Yep. Chris?
Yeah, I would like to express my opposition to the motion. Mainly, as I've stated, I think the promontory overlay is a complication that is not needed, and too many questions remain. It would be the only thing in the promontory overlay that is not in the TBD. It's a special entity, and I think, well, I have reasons for supporting a move to commercial zoning, which I'll go into later if another motion comes up there. But it's just too many questions that I have at this point.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah,
Storm?
just agree with that, and that I think it's not the intent. It's clear that everyone wants this to happen, especially the community, but in practice, it's a rickety vehicle that I fear would sink the project completely.
George?
I don't feel it's any more rickety than a hotel, but it stands on its own benefits, as Mr. Shapiro and Mr. Van Vliet have said to us, that this coffee shop stands on its own merits. On the other hand, I believe that the matter is not as complicated as it can be made to seem, and it has this great advantage. This thing is not subject to appeal through this route. And I'm afraid that if we go through the zoning change, which is subject to appeal in courts, we will wind up somebody in this community will wind up dragging this thing out for a year or more, however it takes lawyers to get through their thing. No offense to the legal profession, but I think this has its advantages of allowing this thing to happen.
Thank you, George.
The coffee shop to happen, part of it. I mean, there's a now.
My second and final, I wanted to make this motion so we could have a vote on it. In my opinion, it is the most consistent way to allow this to happen, considering the surrounding zoning. And I think that the Promontory Overlay District could evolve to become a way to take a district that was residential and has now been impacted by the potential change of the hotel. I mean, it's a philosophical question. It's coming. We know it's coming. So there will be change to this area, but still providing that buffer to the rest of the residential area. So I wanted to give this a shot. If it doesn't work, then we can try again.
Okay. Anything else before I call for a vote? All right, the chair is going to call for a roll call vote. If you support the motion, which is the promontory, which in essence Zach would be C. Sort of.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah, okay. If you support that, your answer will be yes. If you are opposed to it, your answer is no. Or if you do not vote, you will abstain. All right, Zach?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Chris?
No.
Roberta?
No.
Storm?
No.
Nina?
No.
Chair votes no. Motion fails. 5 opposed, 2 yeas.
I tried.
Zach?
I have a different motion then. I move that in support of the community coffee shop concept presented by Mr. Shapiro and the Van Vliet family, that the town council take the following 2 actions. 1, rezone 460 Washington Street from residential to business zoning, and 2, amend the current Harpers Ferry zoning map to reflect both changes.
Second on the motion. Second from Storm. Discussion on the motion. Roberta?
Yes, discussion. So basically, the only reason or the only way that you can make this come forward is maybe 1329.04 paren C, which says the town council, before adopting such a proposed amendment, must find, with the advice of the planning commission, that there have been major changes on an economic, physical, and social nature within the area involved, which are not anticipated, or which was not anticipated when the comprehensive plan was adopted, and that those changes have substantially altered the basic characteristics of the area. Let's go to those points. What is the economic change? The economic change doesn't exist yet, because technically the hotel doesn't exist. That property is not even getting us any hotel, motel taxes, B&O taxes, or anything to that effect. So we are economically losing money. There's no economic benefit right now. Physical. What is the physical change? There is no hotel there right now. The only physical change is that the armory houses have become more dilapidated over time. The hotel is now gone. It's a vacant piece of land. Therefore, again, it hasn't substantially changed to the benefit of the town. It's physically changed to the detriment of the town right now. What is the social nature of the change, of the substantial change? Is there one? There isn't one. It's a fenced-in area with a screen on it. It hasn't had any social nature change to the area involved. Have the changes substantially altered the basic characteristics of the area? Again, it's not defined very well, but substantially changed in land development code means has something been changed to the benefit and completed, in other words, the construction completed to greater than 51%. It has not even met that criteria. So I think the town council cannot move forward with the motion at hand because, 1, the advice of the planning commission didn't even address the economic, the physical, and social nature of any substantial changes. And the town council needs those pieces before we can even move forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? George?
Sure. In response to Roberta, I believe all those changes have occurred, and they've occurred through the TDD. They've changed the reality on the ground. And everything there is a different animal than it was before. I'd also like to say that although this was not my first choice remains that we get something like a coffee house going there. And so I'm in favor of this, as moving this community-minded development forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris and then Storm.
Yeah, attending the hearing the other night, we heard a lot of public comment, enthusiasm about the coffee house, and I have to say I share that enthusiasm. However, I think it's important that we understand we're not approving a specific business. We are, if we vote for this motion, we are making approving a change in the zoning map. And so given that, I tried to look at this very unique little property. I thought about the background where it was offered to be in the promontory overlay. First it was, then it wasn't. We have this little house that, to my best knowledge, has never been inhabited since I've lived in town since 2001 or 2005, maybe decades before that, I don't know. It is not residential, and in that respect, it is part of Harpers Ferry's greatest threat to the residential zone, that we have scads of vacant property sitting around this town. So I guess the change is maybe that we see something that is not working there. I think a business, a community business that provides a gathering place for the community and for tourists, may provide an economic viable way to maintain this property, to keep it up. I also thought about parking, and yes, when I go down to Lower Town, walk past that property on weekends, it's bumper to bumper traffic or parking. It's gonna have its challenges, but 5 days out of the week, I don't see that. I see a lot of parking there that will be available for the community, and which residents can pay $1 and park there for you. So I think the parking issue is not a block, probably not as big a block as parking is a problem in the Lower Town. The building itself has a great deal of appeal to both tourists and residents. When I was running my bed and breakfast, I would have folks walking back from Lower Town all the time saying, "What was that? What about that little house? What do you know?" And so it's a really unique property. I think it needs to be valued, and I think a new use, and not just sitting there empty, provides a way for that to happen. So I'm speaking in support of the
Thank
motion.
you. Stormy, did you have your hand?
Yes, so I do support the rezoning and adding it to the map. We have had the advice of Planning Commission to reports generated and what we have seen. And I feel that there are three main things that I feel are important to this: that it does have overwhelming community support. We have local ownership that have a demonstrated multi-generational commitment to the community. And an energetic proprietor who wants to follow the footsteps of other businesses who are serving the community and contributing in many, many ways. It's historically consistent to have a business like this in town, and that they're important to the vitality of the community, the gathering places, and that they are the type of things that will help both attract and retain visitors, and to have them in different parts of town. And historically, not going to bore you with the whole report. There were clusters of these businesses that serve the residences as opposed to the bustle and pubs of Lower Town that were extended from around the Town Hall complex up to Zachary Taylor and also around the intersection of Washington and Columbia. And then finally, I think George said it well as far as 460 being uniquely situated. I don't think there's another property in town that can say they are surrounded by a TDD no matter what it is. And it has very much changed the situation for them on top of what Chris has said. This is a property that has been vacant, it's been a ghost. And this is something that can bring it to life for the community.
Thank you, Storm. Roberta, second and last discussion
Yes,
point.
thank you, sir. Excellent points, and I agree with you, but if our code said your points, we could move forward with the motion or suggesting that this be rezoned. But our code isn't written that way, and we have to go by what the code says. So I urge this town council to follow their codes, follow the comprehensive plan, and follow their zoning codes. Because if we don't follow the comprehensive plan and we don't follow our zoning ordinances, then we might as well just fold up this town, throw away the comprehensive plan, throw away the zoning ordinances, and turn ourselves back over to the county and dissolve this corporation. Because if we're not going to take ourselves seriously, well, what we produced as a set of ordinances and a comprehensive plan, then we are basically telling all the documents that we have before us to make any kind of judgment are not worth the piece of paper they're written on. And the mayors and town councils that have written them and made them our law. So we have to follow what our comprehensive plan says and what our zoning ordinance says. That's how we're supposed to review this. Not because we love the Bolivar Bakery, we love what the proposal is, a coffee shop. Okay, that's hands down. That's not what the code says. And if we're going to do away with our codes, then we should do away with the corporation of Harpers Ferry. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. Zach?
A few points. I think I agree actually with everybody who said stuff. So this is a complicated one. This is not my first route, but as George said, I do want to see this particular business happen. I agree with Roberta that this rezoning is more than just a specific business and pertains to the potential land use of the surrounding property. So I'd actually like to amend my own motion to add a clause saying that, I guess number 3, the Planning Commission will review the surrounding land use of this lot as part of the next comprehensive plan. So that way, in the future, if the TDD promontory overlay hotel complex does not come to fruition, then a few years down the road, maybe we adjust this if it becomes an outlier. We can't do conditional zoning, but I think we can ask the Planning Commission to look at it again in the future.
A clarification, so that is that it will be added to the map, but also looking beyond the property. Is that what the amendment is?
Yeah, so it doesn't change anything I said before. Switch it to commercial, but just, for the next comprehensive plan update, review the land use of the surrounding area to make sure that this particular zoning change is still consistent.
Second.
We have a second on the amendment. We had a second from Storm. Discussion on the amendment. Chris, and then Roberta.
I worry a little bit about saying we're going to look at any particular property and its zoning status without a request from the landowner. I'm not even sure that would be legal for us.
Go ahead, Zach.
The zoning change can be requested by the lot owner or the Planning Commission. So it could, in theory, happen. I don't know, but I'm just trying to.
I think I'm misunderstood. I thought you were saying to look at the properties around it, i.e. those that are currently in the TDD, as opposed to basically saying we're going to potentially revoke the commercial statuses of the lot to ask someone to make an investment in the property. It doesn't seem prudent.
Yeah, all I was doing is that 10 years from now, we don't know what that section of town will look like, what our ordinances will look like. We are making a significant change to the land use now, and the amendment is to ensure that that is consistent 10 years from now. And if it seems to be an outlier, address it then.
Okay. Can you just reread the motion?
I don't have it written down, so if this is being recorded, it might not match exactly, but adding a third point, that the planning commission review the land use of this area in town, specifically as part of the next comprehensive plan.
And can you find this area?
A block E of town.
Roberta,
Yes, I would like Zach to consider withdrawing that motion and making it a separate motion altogether and not tying it with this rezoning. I fully understand that I think the planning commission does need to reevaluate and add some new things to the comprehensive plan. And this case being very pertinent to that addition to the comprehensive plan. So I'd like you to make a separate motion that maybe the town council empowers the planning commission to evaluate properties similar to what we're looking at tonight and any other properties abutting the TDD that are residential, commercial. Can you consider that as a separate motion, not tie it to the rezoning? I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I didn't intend to tie it to the rezoning.
Oh,
I was
it
just trying to assuage some of the concerns by.
And I think it'd be best to keep it separate.
okay, we have an amended motion on the floor. We have any other discussion? All right, I'm going to do a roll call on the amended motion. Again, if you support the amended motion, your answer will be yes. You're opposed to it is no. If you do not vote, you are abstaining.
And this is just the amendment.
Just
not
the amendment. Zach,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Chris,
Abstain.
Roberta,
No,
Storm,
Yes.
Nina,
Yes.
chair votes no. Amendment carries. Main motion. Zach, read your main motion again.
Oh boy. I move that in support of the community coffee shop concept presented by Mr. Shapiro and the Van Vliet family, the town council take the following two actions. One, rezone 460 Washington Street from residential to business zoning. And I guess that was just amended. Let me restart. I move that in support of the community coffee shop concept presented by Mr. Shapiro and the Van Vliet family, the town council take the following three actions. One, rezone 460 Washington Street from residential to business zoning. Two, amend the current Harpers Ferry zoning map to reflect both changes. And three, direct the planning commission to review the land use of that area, specifically lot E in town, as part of the next comprehensive plan.
Okay,
I'd like to amend that motion.
go ahead.
I would like to strike I'd like to amend the motion to strike that town council takes care of this, that I would like to amend the motion that you strike town council applying for the rezoning and replace it with the property owner and or applicant applying for the rezoning and the map amendment.
Is there a second on the motion? Motion fails, no second. All right, I'm going to call roll for the main motion.
Just one question, is it called business zoning?
I've heard it referred to as both. On the map itself, it says residential and business.
Okay.
Although it also makes reference to commercial districts in the ordinances, so I think they're somewhat interchangeable, but according to the map, red is business.
All right, as in any other roll calls, if you support the main motion, your answer will be yes. You are opposed to it, you no. If you do not vote, you will abstain. Zach,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Roberta.
No.
Pardon me?
No,
Storm,
Yes.
Nina,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Motion carries 6-1.
I'd like to make an additional motion to this agenda item.
Go ahead.
That the town council obtains town attorney advice before moving forward and placing it on the agenda for March of this year.
Is there a second on the motion?
I just have a point of clarification. I don't know what would be going on the March agenda.
Well, you said you wanted the rezoning to be on March. You said it. Did you not say you wanted it to be on March's agenda?
First motion I had that was not accepted, I did have a reference to March, but this
Okay.
one was just action.
Okay, good. So then I'll rephrase that. So I'd like to make a motion that this town council receives advice from the town attorney, and the town attorney is present, and we get to ask the questions that might affect this rezoning and map amendment change.
Is
Before we-
there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Discussion on the motion. Hearing no discussion, I'm going to call roll again, same replies. Yes, no, or abstain. Zach,
Yes.
George,
No,
Chris,
No.
Roberta,
Yes.
Storm.
No.
I'm sorry, Storm.
No.
Okay. Nina,
I'm abstaining.
chair votes no. Motion fails. All right, that item whizzed right by, didn't it?
Thank you. Thank you for putting that up front.
Point of privilege, may we take a,
Yes.
Great.
And we're not abstaining on that. Thank you. Is there a 2-hour delay? Okay. Anything else?
The principal sent out an email a couple of hours ago and said they were working with President Security to stay aware of the situation. And they've let us know.
Okay.
But right now,
Okay. Okay.
what's that?
Thanks for coming, Jesse.
thank you. Yep. I don't think, we'll be around. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Oh.
My application was approved.
Yes.
What is-
Yeah, to change the
Yeah,
zone.
I submitted an application. I just want to hear if my application was approved.
I think that the mayor has to sign the document.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, I think the point I'm trying to clarify is, I just made a motion to approve the zoning change.
Yes.
But also just want to make sure that that takes care of the application is approved, thereby zoning.
Well, to my knowledge,
The procedure, as John said, you're asking procedure, and we don't know the answer.
I think it is.
I think the next
Can't
step
say
Do you
would
want to
be,
need legal advice?
I think the next step would be to take whatever steps are needed to apply for the business permit.
Right, and that's one of the concerns that we talked about this coffee shop. The application, the coffee shop is, we just
So the final motion was to rezone the property, which was accepted. So it's been rezoned. I think we sent it to the mayor to
No,
sign
it's
it.
not.
I think
It's not.
it's red
It's not. You guys don't even know how to do this.
I'll leave it be.
It's not rezoned. You guys don't even know what the procedures are, and I think you need to find out what the procedures are.
Yes,
My
sir.
God.
Hey, guys.
Thank you, Council.
I'm not. Well, I'd like to see, so, you know. I mean, it's cheap.
Oh, yeah. Thirsty all day.
Sorry? Yeah,
Thirsty all day.
After my.
Ha! I read a doctor's thing about the amount of water you're supposed to drink.
That's right.
In ounces per day, you're supposed to drink your body weight.
I'm sorry, say it again.
In ounces per day, you're supposed to drink water your body weight. That's a lot of ounces.
Who said that?
That's about 3 or 4 physicians.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're saying American people don't drink enough water during the day. And it's the only society that's like that. All right, got that thing. Hey, Storm, you did a nice job on that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thing is, I very hosted it already just for fun, so.
Very helpful.
When you did great on what?
Of the historical report.
Oh,
The only thing was you didn't put your name on it. I had to email Penny and Zach to find out where did this come from.
All right, we back in session.
At first it was their mom. You did the farm.
It's a history mystery.
All right, let's move on, council. I don't want to be here till midnight. All right, go ahead, George. Okay, just leave whenever you feel like you need to leave, George. All right, agenda item number 5B1, review and approval of financial reports December. Debbie?
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening's financials are for the end of November 2024, representing, sorry, wait a minute. Yeah, that's the wrong one. It's for December. And it represents 50% of the year. Revision 2, the general fund operating income is at 54% of projected, and expenses are about 39-40%. In discussions later in the meeting, we will take a look at Division 3, which will address some higher than projected income areas and expenses. In waterworks, the billing income is approximately 53%, and overall is also close to 54%, and your expenses are running at 47%.
Debbie, how are we doing with snow removal?
Yeah, so we're going to address that in revision, and our snow removal is requiring us to make a revision.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to move to approve the financial reports as presented.
Second.
Second from Chris, discussion on the motion to approve. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve, raise your hand. Opposed? 0, motion carries 7-0. Debbie?
Okay, checks for approval are, the list was sent out to you, checks are here on the table, questions on any of those?
That one repair, the reimbursement from the insurance company, has that been reimbursed yet, or is
Yeah,
that?
we are still waiting for the reimbursement for subrogation for our deductible, but everything else has already been sent to us by the insurance company. So we're now paying the vendor for the work that they did.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
I move to approve the invoices and purchases as presented.
Second motion, second from Chris, discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries 6-1.
Okay, so the next thing is discussion action regarding the first payment for the Weaver Gillis Historic Preservation Project, and you all should have received a revised version of that in your emails today. So I got that? Okay. So this is for the first third of the project, and it covers $7,000 worth of work. You should have seen the work that was produced, the map and a report, and we are paying 70% on behalf of, in order to produce the cash to pay the engineer. The 30% is being paid by the match from Community Innovation.
Community Innovation Solutions
Thank
Incorporated.
you. And so once our check clears, I will be sending the attached invoice over to SHPO with the cancel check, and then they will reimburse us for the portion that we pay out per the agreement that was reached a while ago.
And just as a reminder, this is a pass-through, so this is not town money, but George.
Finish your point, and then I had a point to make the council aware of. please.
No, that was it, just that this is funds that are flowing through the town and not the town's own.
Expense, it's
Fine.
not our expense.
And
Yes.
to clarify, those of you who drive down Washington Street occasionally, these funds, which were approved through the town and through SHPO, had nothing to do with the tieback that's surrounding the building now, or the rather, I'm not a construction, so I won't say anything, the unusual looking support for the porch on the side. Those have been, are not approved by HLC and are currently, one of my reports I received, family members of the property owners have been authorized to do that. So currently, those funds that Debbie's talking about are only for evaluation of the property. There we go. Thank you.
Okay.
I move to transfer $4,900 from general fund bank account to SHPO operating account to pay civil and environmental consultancy for invoice number 459050 against historic landmarks, and to pay $2,100 to civil and environmental consultancy for invoice number 459050 from SHPO escrow account on behalf of Innovative Community Solutions Inc. for the phase 1 of the Weaver Gillison Historic Preservation Project.
Second on the motion. Second from George. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Yes, me and I will send you that motion.
Okay, so the next item is, discussion action regarding the cash flow study for Harpers Ferry Waterworks.
Yes, so this is an annual cash flow study that's performed for the waterworks. It's conducted to confirm the continued sustainability of the waterworks. So it's a just examining the numbers through eyes that know best.
Is it like an audit?
It's not one, so it's to make sure that our expenses and our revenues align with our current rates.
Do we have a document on this?
No.
Okay,
And-
that's what I thought.
May I ask a question, I guess, of budget and finance?
Go ahead, Roberta.
Okay, and so this study, it's not costing us anything.
Oh, look,
That will cost us.
Okay, is it being conducted by a private company?
Consolidate our, okay, so our accountants who advise us, they will take a look at our books from last year and make sure that we are tracking along with our expenses with the rate that we currently have. If you recall when we had the most recent rate increase, it was very large. And I said to you, every year, we're going to have a cash flow study. So that if we need to make a rate increase, it will be a small incremental rate increase. It's not going to be disruptive as this one was. So this is making good on that promise.
Okay, so it's basically gonna be, we're just gonna charge them for their hourly rate
Right,
to do the study.
right,
It's
and
not a
it's
third
not-
party or anything like that.
No, it's just
Okay.
our regular accounting firm. Yep.
is this a motion? Move to have a cash flow study performed for Harpers Ferry Waterworks
By Consolidated.
by Cox Consolidated.
Second on the motion. Second, Chris. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
What a privilege. I'm going to leave the meeting this time. Thank you.
Let the record reflect George has
George Purchase.
departed at 8:40 p.m. Budget and Finance Committee, Storm.
Yes, discussion only on WDA grant and CDS funding. The first of the big projects we were hoping to do. Work is underway with the contractor that's being paid through the grant. And currently they are looking for a staging location to get with the work done. Work starting in earnest in March.
Okay.
And then discussion only on update regarding 24, 25, and 26 congressional directed spending. Currently for the fiscal year 24, the finance officer is working with the EPA folks on the paperwork and making sure all the elements that are required to move that forward are going to go. And that has to do mostly with the water meters. And then for fiscal year 25, we're waiting for Congress to take that up. And in the meantime, just looking over the budget for it to make sure that it's all going to fit with the dollar amount we have, and just crossing the T's and dotting the I's.
Right, now add a couple things to that, which is that our bid draft that's currently been designed by DDNF, we have given to the EPA. I think that we're more along in the process than we thought we were, so that's really good news. I'm hoping by around March 1, we're going to kind of have a blessing with the EPA that we have everything in place that we can meet with you all to get the bid approved and get it out on the street. One of the things that we do need to be thinking about, and I'm going to ask the mayor to help with a probably special council meeting in the near future, is to review an issue that we have with the condition of the meter pits, in that some of them are not ready to accept a new meter as just a swap out. They may have some debris in there, they may have some defects, and so Steve has worked with our maintenance of mains contractor to get a quote for dealing with that issue outside of the grant, because it's a big variable and it could really sway our meter purchase. It's a significant enough number with that, so we would use our renew and replace funding for that. So I don't want to get into a lot of details about that, but I'm trying to just warn you that there's going to be probably a special meeting between now and the first part of March to have you all take a look at that. And on the fiscal 25 budget and 26 in particular, once we get through the final details of what 25 is going to hold for, or be able to hold with the monies that we have there, then we have whatever's left over that doesn't get addressed, and the rest of the distribution system that never got designed. And so the other part of the ask of the special meeting will be to look at asking GDNF and coming to an agreement to have them move forward with this, or whoever go out to quote to have move going forward with designing the rest of it and putting that together in an engineering package that can be part of that grant, but we still have to enact that. So just food for thought as we move forward. These are complex things. Kind of helps to hear things once or twice in advance. So, okay.
All right, Storm?
Discussion action regarding resolution 4 for the water distribution system project.
Yep, so resolution 4, the town of Harpers Ferry approving the invoices related to the construction and other services for the water project and authorizing payment thereof. Whereas the town of Harpers Ferry has received the invoices attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference in relation to the construction of the water project funded by the West Virginia Water Development Authority, EECG funds, and CNB Bank Construction Trust funds, and finds as follows: that none of the items for which payment is proposed have been requested from another source, that each item for which the payment is proposed to be paid is or was necessary in connection with the project and constitutes a cost of the project, that each of such costs has been otherwise properly incurred, that payment for each of the items is proposed is due and owing. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of Harpers Ferry that the payment of the attached invoices summarized below are hereby authorized and directed GDNF $1,394.94 from the CNB funds adopted by the Town Council of Harpers Ferry, the meeting held on the 10th day of February 2025.
I move to adopt resolution number 4 for water distribution system project phase number 1 is presented.
Second on the motion, second from Chris. This call, I forget, roll call.
You don't need a roll call.
Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor of the motion to approve, raise your hand. Opposed, motion carries 6-0.
Discussion and action regarding the town and waterworks collections policy. This was something that the council approved a couple meetings ago, pending the development of rules for the collection agency. I believe everybody was forwarded a copy of the rules.
Right. So the act of retaining a collection agency is what was approved, and then these policies support our waterworks department within in order to be able to work with the community. These are some just rules and regulations that she can follow. And the police department has their own set of rules that are defined by, higher outside authorities that help Melissa move forward with collections where that may be required. So these are before you to approve them so that we can, and then I will take these on Thursday along with your approval of the collection agency use to the PSD to get their approval so that we can do that jointly with them.
Any questions about the policy?
Go ahead, Stuart.
I'm going to adopt the collections policy as presented.
Second on the motion. Second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. Go ahead, Chris.
There was a grammar error in 3B.
Mhm.
Let me find it real quick.
If the account has, doesn't say the, if the account has carry forward balance exceeding limits above
The account
the account.
has carried forward, should be. And I also, the exceptions to terminations must be approved by the Public Works Administrator on, that's from 2C.
Mhm.
I guess I'm just wondering, is that does that make the most sense here?
So are you saying, you want to put a different
Well,
entity in there, or?
it just struck me as a question. This is exceptions to turning off someone's water,
Mhm.
making the exceptions dependent on one administrator.
Mhm.
And presently, I can see complications with that for customers from Bolivar. I'm not sure. I'm wondering if there would be more than one path.
So let me just explain a little bit about probably why this is here. And I understand what you're saying, particularly about the circumstances of this particular position. But one of the challenges is that Kathy runs into is she's on the phone and somebody's pressuring her to just not do it. And so this sort of takes it out of her hands, right? And so who does that go to? And that could be the mayor, and he's the administrator, on the ground. Steve, this any public works administrator is the intermediate administrator. The public works administrator is more regularly available to the clerk. Not that the mayor isn't always. So it could be might be a tandem thing, either or.
The mayor or their designee.
Or the mayor or their designee. That could be done. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd like that.
Okay, so we change that to mayor or designee. Sure.
I think we need an amendment, amended motion to that effect.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Okay.
What, did I second it? I'm forgetting.
Well, no, the main motion is there, so this is material now, it's not just a grammar error, so.
Yeah.
I move to amend.
Is there anything else though?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
anybody have any other comments?
That's
or-
all I have.
Any other discussion on that? It's a good point. Go ahead, Stuart.
I move to amend the document to read the mayor or their designee in lieu of Public Works Administrator
In item 2C.
in item 2.
Yeah, second on the motion, second from Zach. I'm getting tired of calling on you, Chris, okay? Just for a second.
So loud all the time.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amended motion, raise your hand. Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay.
Point of clarification, was that a vote on the amendment or on the
The
motion?
amended motion. Okay.
Do we need to
vote
vote
Well,
on
wait a
that?
minute now.
I think we need to vote
To
on
the amendment.
Yeah, on the amendment. The amendment. And so what we had, the amendment was approved 5-0.
With one abstain.
And now we go to, yep.
One abstain, 501.
So we got to already have a second on the main motion. And is there any other discussion on the main motion? All those in favor of the main motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries
Abstain.
5-0.
Abstain.
Okay.
Skipping over item 5.
Can I have Nina record the vote on those two things correctly, please?
Pardon me?
Yeah, I have correct. It's 5 yes, 0 no, 1 abstain. For
Well,
both.
And one
abstains
absent.
do not count as a vote.
And
Oh,
one
one
absent.
George is absent.
That still doesn't count as a
Okay,
vote.
just-
Abstentions do not count as a vote.
No, but it's
The
recorded.
vote total is 5-0.
Correct.
501. Whatever.
Okay, so where are we? We are at 5C6,
Yeah.
because we're deferring number 5. Go
Right.
ahead, Storm.
Yes, and I am an officer of this organization. Oh, wait,
Nope,
oh, no,
No.
we're not there yet. Not there, never mind. I'm not an officer of that organization.
this is about the 26 budget process.
Yes.
Yep,
my
so just a
eyes-
reminder as to where we are with that.
Yes, so this is the process that feeds into next fiscal year's budget, where we have internal and external organizations come to us. Reminder that the first meeting will be on February 20th, and that is when, for lack of a better term, petitioners will be there. First thing is we need a head count of who will be there. It's critical because it's a town council meeting that we have a quorum. And at what times people will be.
And if you're not able to be there for the whole day, when are you gonna be there? Yeah, so we make sure we maintain.
Define whole day.
Starting at 9, going till 5 or 6.
Usually we split it into a couple of days.
Yeah. We try to, and if we'll try to group, people together. There's some people who've said, oh, we can come anytime or tell, and so we'll try to make clusters so that there's some breaks.
Yeah, the schedule's not fixed yet. Do we need a head count now or just to report it?
Well, we need to at least know that there's gonna be a quorum committed to the day.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
At least the outset of the meeting.
Yeah.
I'll
So
be
if you had
there.
4 there at
All,
at
at
least
any
4,
point,
at
right.
any point, you're good. So
Yeah.
if someone had to leave or whatever.
So
Who's not available? All day?
I'll be
Okay.
in the lab, so.
All right, so, Chris, are you
I'll
available?
be there.
Roberta? Storm? I'm 4.
Nina's not.
And Nina won't be, and,
I don't know about George. I think so.
okay.
Okay, so we should be
We'll
good.
have a,
Okay.
We have a
just wanna
confirmed
say
quorum,
we'll strike.
so
we'll do
As soon
5.
as we set the schedule, we will distribute that so you know.
Yeah.
And then the agenda will go out on the 18th.
Okay,
And yes, it's going to be a long day, so prepare accordingly with a lunch break. A lot of detail. And important to know, each organization that's seeking funds will be given 20-minute time slots, and we'll go over more when we're in the meeting. But that means really this is about hearing it, 1 or 2 questions for clarification, but it's not the time for deliberation. It's the key thing. And then after that, there will be a meeting on February 26th, and this will be the deliberative meeting. It will also be a town council meeting. So we will require a quorum before, and this is where we will discuss the merits of each of them, the relative merits, because it is a finite amount of funding. We need a head count for that one.
What's that second day?
February 26th.
26. I will be virtually if I can.
Yes.
And we haven't set a time for that yet, but probably in the middle of the afternoon. Yeah.
Chris?
I'll be there.
Great. Zach?
I'm good.
Okay.
Zach,
well,
you available? On the
For-
26th?
Don't know yet.
Okay, but we got a quorum already.
Well, we got a
yeah,
quorum.
we have a confirmed quorum.
We got a quorum.
I can be there alone, but
All right. Okay, so where are we
And
with
then-
this thing now?
And then,
Yeah, then March 10th is when when the whole budget will come before town council. It's going to be part of that whole thing
at the regular meeting.
at the regular meeting.
Okay.
And then the very, very special meeting April 15th, which is prescribed by West Virginia law, when we lay the levy and it becomes a real budget.
Right, so. Okay, so we just wanted to mark the calendars for that and, yeah. Okay,
Now I'm going to recuse myself because I'm not obligated by West Virginia law, but feel it's the right thing to do. And Chris Craig will take it from there.
Yeah, the issue was that there was $5,000 of town funds budgeted to the Harpers Ferry Bolivar Historic Town Foundation for plastering. Because of the workflow and contractors' availability, they can't do the plastering right now. They would like to have that budgeted money be moved to brickwork. So it's from one outdoor project to another. That's the explanation. So my motion,
And brickwork is the walls of the building or?
yes,
Okay.
mainly pointing,
Pointing, thank you, so that's my expression.
but there may be some more repair and stuff.
But it's not a pathway or anything like that. It's not.
It wasn't getting that.
Recently seen
For the building or what?
So I move to reassign the $5,000 previously approved by the town council for fiscal year 25 for the Harpers Ferry Bolivar Historic Town Foundation to have plastering work done on the First Zion Baptist Church structure to instead go towards brickwork out of 906, Fund 906, Arts and Humanities Historic Preservation.
Now my
Second from Zach. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
More one.
Okay, motion carries, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-0. Okay. Let's Storm back in, or keep him out there, right?
We can't keep losing people.
Yeah. Put him in the corner.
He passed.
All right, so where are we? We are.
For 8.
All right, discussion and action regarding FY 25 budget revision number 4.
Right. So typically Nina would be taking roll call and be assigned to sign the request for the budget revision. Since Nina is not present, we'll ask for the mayor to assign a person from the council in her place, and then I'll read the resolution with that person in a minute.
I'm going to assign the person sitting closest to the nearest trash can. Oh, Storm. That's it.
I'm always sitting
That's a
next to the trash
qualification.
can.
All right.
My birthday was Oscar.
Okay.
Right. Storm,
All
you're
right,
the assigner.
so for the fiscal 25 general fund revision 4, this proposes increases in revenue for other grants, insurance claims, and miscellaneous revenue based on actual receipts to date. Other grants captures opioid settlement funds received, insurance claims captures proceeds received to date, in addition to a deductible amount that is still under subrogation and expected to be received, and miscellaneous revenue includes some generous donations made, as well as the election candidacy fees collected. Together, these items increase the budget by $10,200. In the expense area, snow removal costs have almost maxed out to what was originally budgeted. The line item has been increased by $30,000 to allow for coverage for additional weather events, and contingencies have been decreased by $22,300, largely to offset this need. Grants for health and sanitation have been increased by $2,500 to hold in place the corresponding spending funds for opioid settlement funds received. It is anticipated that 571 parking payroll will need to be increased for the remainder of 2025. This will be considered under a future budget revision once Budget and Finance receives a plan for that item for the remainder of the fiscal year. Any questions on the details? Yes, sir.
Forgive me if I missed it, but what's the $2,500 grant for?
Yeah, so we received $2,500 in opioid settlement
For
money,
opioid,
so we have to
okay.
offset it in our expenses in that
sorry,
line item. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a one time $2,500 or we're gonna get more money? You
We're
don't know.
supposed to get more, but they don't tell us, and we can't.
We never
they
know when
didn't
they're coming
say,
in.
oh, the town of Harpers Ferry is gonna get $40,000 and tell us when.
Yeah.
So when the check comes, we adjust the budget.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, do we have a motion?
We're gonna have
A roll call.
we have to read the resolution. It's a resolution.
Oh.
Yeah. So. Oh no, you got, wait,
So that, yeah.
why am I having a amendment here? So. Yeah, okay, so let's make a motion, right?
Yeah, we have to have a
Go ahead.
motion in
Yeah.
a second, then I'll just
Yeah.
call.
I don't know why I'm having a,
Go ahead, Storm.
Move to approve fiscal year 25 budget revision 4 as presented.
Is there a second on the motion? Second from Chris. Discussion? All right, I'm gonna call roll. If you agree with the motion, your answer will be yes. If you disagree, answer is no, or you can abstain. Zach,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Roberta,
Yes.
Storm,
Yes.
Nina,
Yes.
and the chair is yes. Motion carries. No opposition.
All right.
All right. And I'll sign all that stuff and store them tomorrow, okay, or whatever.
Storm.
All right, anything else on that?
Nope.
Okay. Chief? Sorry, we're keeping you here.
He only has to be open 3
Good evening, council. Just want to go over, I'm not gonna read everything verbatim, but as far as the report for January, any questions or concerns?
John, read into your.
Any questions or
Is it on?
concerns?
Oh, okay.
Yes. For the report that I presented to you guys for January 2025. I would just like to add that we're sending notifications out to the residents about updating your parking permits. So we've been on top of that and following through with the officers, and we're also taking care of that one on the floor, making sure everybody's aware that we need to come in compliance with that. Okay. Go ahead.
Are you done?
Yes.
Oh, may I ask a quick question of
Sure, go
you
ahead.
and the police chief? We had 2 officers that responded heroically to a potential hazardous fire. And we talked last meeting that they would receive maybe accommodation. What is happening with that?
I gave him one.
Oh, fantastic.
Mhm.
Too bad we didn't have a ceremony. Thank you. All right, nice to know.
I'm gonna move on to the second item. So I would like to say thank you for Miss Debbie and Nina, and also Sergeant Allentrout. We're constantly trying to figure out ways to find fundings for the police department, getting new hires and all. Mayor and I are constantly talking about how we can improve things and keep the department moving forward. So in this, last year we applied for a grant, a COPS grant. We had the paperwork in submitted by June. We didn't quite get it. We were passed over. There was other agencies that were in more need than what we were. But as you can see, we will continue to apply for the grant. And in this packet that Phyllis put together for me, it states the qualifications and everything that we do to apply for those fundings to assist us. Those fundings are the first year they will fully fund the additional officers, and as the years go on, within the 3 years they phase out of it, where we would take over full compensation for paying those officers. And we will continue to apply for that as time goes on, and hopefully we'll be able to receive something to help us continue to move the department forward and doing additional things in the area. Okay. Any questions? Any concerns? And then I was asked to put a proposal together for the vehicles. We currently have 5 vehicles in use. Our 13, as you can see, the mileage is very high on that, just like the 16. We've purchased 2 20-year models, and we have a 21-year model. So we're also looking at trying to find funds so we can remove the 13 and the 16 from our fleet. They're very cost consuming with maintenance and all. So we're trying to move that forward and getting the equipment updates that we need for new vehicles and all. And I know Miss Debbie has been stashing a little funds away, and we're going to apply for a grant and assisting us in maybe purchasing a second vehicle as well. Speaking correctly, Miss Debbie.
So we're sitting there and every time I'm
So I had this report put together for you guys to read through, and hopefully it explains itself well enough to where I can gain support and continue to provide great service to the community in which we serve. Like I said, the mayor and I constantly sit down and we're trying to think of ways to come up with funding and doing things, so we're representing you guys as the council and the town in an appropriate way that you're proud of us. Any questions?
Let me just say that the mileage on the 13 and the 16, that's council, that's incredibly high. 110,000 miles and 160,000 miles. Many agencies deadline their cruisers 50 to 60,000 miles, and we've got
How old are the vehicles?
Hmm?
How old are they?
well the 2013 Roberta's got 160,000 on it, and the 2016's got 110,000, 111,000 really. Those two are well beyond normal expectations for a police department. So we need to keep pushing this issue and scouring the area for assistance. There is assistance here, and I know John and Mike and Berlissa try to bring us into reality with acquiring a grant, but these are very, very competitive. But I still think that we can make a very, very compelling case, not because we have 15,000 police officers, but the case because of where we are and who we are, and being the gateway into West Virginia, and all that stuff adds up, and it's how you write the grant up, and that's where your success really comes in. So I appreciate John, you and Mike and Melissa and Debbie too, working on to get us the funds to make sure that what you guys are driving is the most safe vehicle that we can put on the road.
Yes, sir. And just to add on top to what the mayor said, when we put in the request to the dealership, those cars are in great demand. So the last cruiser we ordered took almost 2 years before we received it. So, we have to get them in. We don't make those cruisers every year and skip years out. So, we have to get on the list where, we're in line to receive the next vehicle coming through.
And the reason it takes so long is they got these special police interceptor engines in it. And that's not something that generally comes off Ford's motor.
Right.
And off the assembly line. So.
And there's a lot of equipment that those engines, we have a computer that's in the vehicle that's constantly running, it is a performance vehicle. And there's the radio, everything's pulling off the alternator and everything. So those vehicles are made totally different from what you would drive on the street.
So my only advice, John, is you got, all of you, Melissa, Debbie, yourself, and Mike, you got to keep pushing this issue with cops and with the Bureau of Justice Administration for these. Don't be bashful. So, Roberta.
Yeah, quick question. And again, in my younger days, along with my parents, we actually put on fundraisers, gala events, and fundraisers that got the community involved and raised money for vehicles. We actually raised money for a fire engine. So is there anything like that that's prohibited us to do that for vehicles, fire engines, etc.?
No, I think as long as it's done through a proper agency, a public agency, we certainly, it would not really be appropriate for a public agency such as a corporation to go out and knock on doors and ask for money. I know the fire department used to get in trouble when they would stand up by the country cafe with a boot and you put money in the boot. They don't do that anymore.
Right.
But any nonprofit, any civic organization, sure.
So we could reach out to maybe
and
see if they can help.
And we can accept monies, correct, Debbie? Yeah. I just gave 20,000 the other day.
To the IRS, right?
Sure he did. Thank you, John. Okay, that takes us up to, you got your OCO report. Let me know, or if you got a question, ask Patty also. She keeps up with Kevin. Landmarks, Georgia's not here. Update on the Weaver House. We're good to go. Any questions there?
Other than we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, project on it. We know that.
That's right. Waterproof to a point.
So I'm in a similar boat. Water Department General Report from Public Works and Water Commission report. Mike is not here. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, one thing I say with the Water Commission is they are planning a meeting. I believe they are planning to have a meeting next Wednesday. Okay, in terms of the water plant, numbers I usually give you are unaccounted for water. In January is 44%. If you recall, December was 51, and November was 42. So a little bit better than last month. Still kind of in the same range that we, normally run at. Tank levels, we ranged anywhere from just under 60%, and these numbers are all taken at midnight. So just under 60%. For the low, the max was about 83%, and the mean was somewhere around 71%. I think that was a little bit low for us typically. We continue to be running. We're going through scheduling and all that, but those numbers are acceptable. Like I said, a little bit low. Normally we have something I think a little bit higher than the low 80s to report at some point during the month, but we're managing. Got a few other things here I want to share. We have entered, submitted an application for entry into the now 35th Berkeley Springs International Water Tasting Festival. That will be conducted Thursday, the 20th, this is all in February, through Saturday, the 22nd. The judging and all the rest is actually on Saturday. Thursday is some training for the judges. Friday is some seminars, but the judging actually occurs on Saturday. You may recall last year it was the first time we entered and we placed 5th. We were 1 point out of 4th. So we're hoping to do better. Who knows? It's up at the Inn in Berkeley Springs. If anybody's interested, the judging, the awards will be announced somewhere between maybe as early as 8 p.m., possibly as late as 8:45. I wasn't really able to tell compared to last year and this year on what they posted. So anybody who's interested, then they do a rush after they announce the awards. That's a sight to be seen. All of the bottled waters, they array bottled waters around the stage, and then they do a countdown, and people rush the stage and kind of grab as many bottles as they can. It's a scene. But there will be other municipal waters there for tasting. So it's kind of a fun time. We did have did want to just let you know, we did have a gasoline spill that we reported to DEP. That was a week ago today. Basically, one of our staff ruptured a private vehicle gas tank upon pulling into the plant. So we did, according to our DEP permit, we did report that. There was an inspector that came out from Romney the following day and just walked through everything with me and what we did to contain it. The item that still remains is we have to figure out how we will appropriately dispose of the absorbent that we use on the parking lot to absorb the spilled gasoline.
How many gallons?
I'm guessing we lost somewhere. The tank is full. It's an SUV, so it's probably good size. So it's probably 15 to 17 gallon tank. And if I had to ballpark it, I'd say we probably were somewhere in 5 to 8 gallons before we caught it. Before we were able to get a container in to catch it. I've got about 20 gallons of kitty litter that we use as absorbent, and that's what has to be.
So the tank got punctured? I mean, yeah. Very lucky that it didn't explode.
Yes.
It's a blessing.
The tank, from what I can tell, fell out of the vehicle or dragged somewhere along Bakerton Road. Vehicle pulled into the plant. Through all that dragging, it ruptured the tank. Wow. Gasoline all over the place.
Very lucky.
But lucky that we did not have a crisis altogether. February, the one other thing I will talk briefly about the February 11th meeting with the county and the bottling plant. Council has submitted a letter. The Elks One Group and the Safe Water Harpers Ferry, they've submitted a letter. Neither no representatives from town or the waterworks have signed on to that letter. But I think it's safe to say we certainly support, what they're presenting. I intend to participate. Who knows what's going to happen with snow? Well, there was an article, February 7th article in the Journal of Jefferson County Commission discussing a groundwater study. That's one of the things that when I went to the County Commission, Planning Commission, I asked them that they, consider doing that. So I think that's actually really positive there. They did not, at this point, move to vote on conducting a study. However, they did vote, according to the Journal article, to draft an outline of the Water Advisory Committee bylaws and to add more members in the future. So that is also one of the things that I'd asked them to consider. And so I think that's a positive step. And I do have also, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the turbidity in the Potomac is quite high. We walk past that bridge and it looks like, kind of a light chocolate, flowing down. So just as a point of reference, I did pull a sample from the Potomac in the vicinity where we would normally pull our sample, or draw our water if we had to draw from the Potomac. And I compared that turbidity, that came in at about 22 units. The turbidity of the sample that I pulled the same day from Elks Run was 0.6. We processed the water down to somewhere around a 0.03. So the turbidity is all about the dirt that we then have to take out. We take that dirt out by putting in coagulant, putting in chemicals. And when we put in the chemicals, it basically gets the dirt to settle out, which then winds up as sludge, which we then have to not only pay for the chemicals put in, but then we have to pay to get the sludge out of it. So that's really a dramatic difference. One of the reasons why it's so important that we protect the Elks Run as our source. The Elks Run has been running super clear for probably the last two months or so, and it just makes our job processing water so much easier. So that's something hopefully I'd be able to share with the group tomorrow night, and just in terms of data point and why this goes.
Steve, are you going to do the site? So run through that real quick, because I'm trying to shorten this thing up here.
So we had the contractor doing the distribution project, looking for a site to lay down their equipment and put a contractor's trailer. I took them for a little ride around, today to look at things that we could offer. And the short of it was that they did talk to Matt Knott in terms of a laydown, what they refer to as laydown yard, some of their materials. They feel like whatever he was able to offer them, they're happy with that. As a backup, I think that we would perhaps use the area at the water plant down where our contractors, when they were doing the plant, used the laydown yard there. In terms of a trailer site, it seems that, from what I can gather, they are hoping or looking for working with the fire department to use the lot up behind here, but there is a adjacent lot that belongs to the town, and they asked that we consider allowing them to kind of use that in conjunction with what they're using with the fire department. So I said I'd bring that forward, to the council tonight. I also talked to them and showed them the possibility of doing something up by our tanks behind the fence. At this point, they're not really interested in that. That would be a backup alternative if everything else falls out. But I had talked to them about possibly doing that if they were going to do that, if I could get them to, I would need approval probably from you folks to do this, but get them to remove their 11 trees that were planted to screen those tanks from Prospect Street, Prospect Ave. I am concerned that two reasons with those trees in there. One is security. The trees are screening our tanks. Things have changed since those trees were put in, just in terms of terrorism, concern about safety and all the rest for public utilities. So from a safety perspective, I actually think that it would be safer for us not to be screening possible nefarious activity happening, to our tanks behind the trees. So I'd like us to consider that. And then the other thing is, those tanks seem to be providing a fair amount of shade. Some of them the limbs are actually touching the tanks. There appear to be a lot of algae or biologicals that are growing on the outside of the tanks. And, I don't know for certain that that's what's causing that growth, but I just think that at some point, probably might be wise to get the trees out of there. The Kurt Miles from Turtle Works, who I took around today, he told me even if they don't use that as a site for their, their trailer or whatever, he said that he would be willing to, without charge to the town, to remove those trees for us if we decide that's something we wanted to do. So I just kind of put that one forward. The trees themselves measure at breast height anywhere from 5 1/4 inches to 12 1/2 inches in length. From what I understand, they were planted specifically inside the fence line, but to screen the tanks. So that's something, no action tonight, but something, for you folks to consider.
Steve, are you looking for an action from this council to approve a site?
I think that Kurt is looking for potentially, approval to use the town lot that sits up here on West Ridge behind Town Hall up here. And that would be for his construction trip, as I understand.
Roberta?
Yes, do you have a site plan or anything proposed by the contractor to show how they're gonna lay out the site?
Yeah, he hasn't given me.
Okay, is the construction trailer gonna include public toilets or toilets for the workers? And will they be hooked up to our system?
No, I wouldn't think they'd be hooked up to the system. I will tell you my experience with the different project, but the contractor doing the sidewalks in Bolivar, they had a trailer, they also had a porta potty. Right, and that's what they're
Okay, so if we have some rules or policies in place that, there's no dumping, there's no porta potty dumping, there's no, what are we going to let them do on the property? Are they gonna park there? We gotta make sure that piece of property doesn't become manipulated with chemicals or whatever, destroyed, and it gets returned back to nice condition if they rented it from us. Or
Yeah, Steve, I think we're going to need a proposal, all right, for this body to approve.
And I don't know, I suspect they'll be able to get going.
Yeah.
I don't know this, but I suspect they'll be able to get going just with using fire department land for now. Probably park the trailer there, and then it would be spillover stuff on town road. But I don't know that. I could talk to them and then bring something back about all that stuff.
Well,
I suspect you'll see a trailer up there anyhow. We just, will be where it sits relative to the.
All right, see if you can get a proposal from them, and then if I have to, I'll call a real special council meeting together for 5 minutes and, get 4 of us there.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Thank you.
ORC, Roberta?
yes, okay, I have a report which I haven't submitted in quite a while, but here's our latest and greatest report. Read it through quickly. So we're still updating the thing. I'm almost done, and thanks to Verlissa's help and Nina's help to get into the room, I've got a lot of the data ready to go and put into a master book. Under unfinished business, you can see that we still have an outstanding item that we have to do, but business tonight is to get this ordinance 2024-04 read into record and for a second reading. So if we are ready to go with that, I'll just jump into that and then finish my report after the fact, or I can finish it now. Let me just finish the report now. So we're still some outstanding items under pending business, but I think one of the most important items under pending business is outlined in red. And I asked for this a couple months ago, and I think it's important. The removal of the town ordinances from the town website immediately. ORC is making its second request to remove the town ordinances from the town website because they are out of date and they have been amended by this council at least twice. So there's got to be something that we shut those ordinances down and make the people know, the public know, that those ordinances are not up to date, and that they want an up-to-date ordinance and get the correct information, that they need to come in and use the hard copy in the office. So that's critical to me. That gets done, and the other stuff you can read.
Anita, you want to comment on that?
Well, if the council decides that we should remove the ordinances from the website, that should not be super complicated to do so. It would just be kind of a decision, I guess, amongst all of us if we want to proceed with that or not.
Mayor Vaughn,
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to clarify that was not discussed at the ORC meeting,
No, but
that request.
I've
And-
brought it forward in meetings before. Not in ORC, but in this town council. I brought it before, so I'm just including it in the report again that this is our second request.
Okay, but are you making a recommendation from the ORC, Roberta? Is this a recommendation from the ORC or is this a recommendation from Roberta?
This is a recommendation from ORC, and this is a recommendation as a town council member because we have the documentation that's not correct on the website. I can take it back to ORC and get the formal vote from them, if that's what you'd like, just waste time.
We can't, sorry, point of order, we can't take action on it because it's not on our.
No, I know that, and that's, I'm just letting you know that I'm putting you on notice, let's just put it that way, that again, I've asked for it to be removed.
Have you inventoried what exactly is out of date? I've heard that.
Technically, yes, I'll give you my answer. Technically, every single ordinance, every single section in our code is out of date because West Virginia law and West Virginia legislature, as of last spring, has made some changes. We asked Ken Sayer to come give us a report on those changes. So technically, our entire set of ordinances is out of date with West Virginia law.
I'm not sure.
Not to mention just our ordinances that we changed.
Well,
I'm not sure I agree with that.
I understand that if the state law overrides our ordinances, that we need to make adjustments, but it has not so far changed our ordinances. What?
No, because we haven't changed them yet. Because we're waiting on Ken Sayer to come and tell us what to change.
All right,
And I'll tell you what the cross references. Every single cross reference here in our code is out of date. I'll tell you that right now. So that's where we are, out of date on everything right there.
All right, let's stick with
Okay.
5B, Roman numeral 2.
Okay. So 5B Roman numeral 2, 5B Roman numeral 2. 5H, you mean? 5H?
I'm sorry.
5H2, yeah.
I'm sorry.
5H Roman numeral 2. Okay. So all of you were given a copy of the ordinance. This is the second reading. Again, what we did, what you asked the ORC to do, you remanded it back to us to change a couple of words and define better the two words that were in the previous ordinance, construction activities. So what we did, find that, I believe it's in Exhibit 2. Exhibit 2, okay. Exhibit 2 under Article 527, the noise ordinance. And if you go to page 3, so what we did is we made those changes where we took and said construction activities. We took out the word permitted and we inserted construction activities approved by a Harper's Ferry project permit shall follow the guidelines, subsection appendix B. So, we hope that addresses your concern, Mayor. I think you were the primary person that was concerned with the definition of construction activities. So we defined it basically by being anything that had an approved permit by the Harpers Ferry project permit process. And if you want to add anything to that, please do.
Yeah, Mayor, if I could.
No, I was just going to call on you, Chris, for your perspective from ORC. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think there were, to my memory of this discussion, which I think was in August, there were 3 concerns expressed, and we were asked to basically address them. So, to my memory, you expressed concern that permitted construction was not clear. So I think we've changed that to make it a little more clear. It's construction activities approved by a Harpers Ferry project permit. I think Nina, if my memory serves me correctly, felt that we were making different allowances for contractor crews coming into town and town residents. After thinking about that and discussing it, I feel that issue is really moot because we are not making that that distinction. If a town resident is doing his or her own work that has been approved by a Harpers Ferry project permit, they would be following the Appendix B regulations. The third concern, I think, was from Zach, who disagreed with the whole premise that we should allow the crews to start at 7 in the morning on weekdays. Now, that is a problem we can't really deal with. We were asked to have some kind of consistency for the noise ordinance and Appendix B. And it was the OCO's position, the whole reason why this came up, that people trying to do work in Harpers Ferry are at a real disadvantage if they're trying to find contractors who are not going to come in until 9 in the morning. So we felt that we would address it by saying that permitted work is going to go by Appendix B, but the noise ordinance guides everything else, all the other noise.
Yeah, I know there was a discrepancy that Patty brought up regarding just that. There were 2 references to the noise.
Yeah.
And there were two distinct differences between them.
Yeah. I think we've addressed that.
Resolved?
I think
Yes.
we've addressed that,
Okay.
which was already true, by the way, because it says that construction work that's permitted by a Harpers Ferry permit is not going to be guided by the noise ordinance, but rather by Appendix B, which does set the time.
And you're both comfortable with what we have here?
All 3 of us, it was a unanimous vote that
It
what we're
was.
presenting tonight is adequate.
Okay. All right, so go ahead and
Read
Ms.
it.
Bissell, what do we do with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is it a
so
motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to read the
Yeah, you gotta read
heading
the,
and then,
I think the first paragraph.
yes, that's usually what we do. Okay. I make a motion that the ordinance 2024-04 reading as follows. An ordinance of the Corporation of Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, amending the Code of Ordinances of Harpers Ferry, Part 13, Project and Zoning Code, Appendix B, Standards for Project Activities, Permitted Hours per Exterior Work, as per Exhibit 1, attached, and Part 5, General Offenses Code, Article 527 noise, Section 527.02 noise prohibited as per Exhibit 2 attached, amending and adopting text amendments as presented, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date. Effective date would be tonight, and I do have the black copy if you're ready to move forward and sign tonight.
Is there a second on the motion?
I second.
From Chris, discussion on the motion. Zach?
I'm still confused, and maybe you can help. That you just mentioned 527.02, noise prohibited. D does include power tools, I think for exterior equipment, including lawn maintenance and things that cannot happen between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. So are we saying that that section of that ordinance is no longer valid?
No, we're
No.
saying that, so you're in 502. So what we're saying is those items, A, B, C, and D, okay, are limited to the hours of basically 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. by technically any resident that living in town, any business in town, okay? However, if that particular noise is associated with a project permit, then they must operate under the project permit timetable, which is 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And Sunday they can't operate at all. Okay, so if I'm Joe Smith who's out mowing my lawn, I'm good. Okay, as long as I mow it between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m.
We would have a
Okay.
project permit to mow your lawn.
You don't need a project permit to mow your lawn.
Right, so you can only do it between certain
8 to
hours.
10. Well, who's
Yeah.
gonna? Yeah.
Right.
You could not mow your lawn at 5 a.m.
Correct.
But if you have a contractor coming in to do work, that's guided by Appendix B, which says that he or she can start at 7 a.m. So it's basically turning it over to a separate part of our ordinance.
And let's clarify that even further. It doesn't mean that the guy that you contracted for lawn service can come in at 7 a.m. No, it's
Right.
not a project permit under the Harpers Ferry project permit process. Okay?
Go ahead, Zach.
Well, I completely see where you're coming from. It still confuses me that we're allowing people with project permits to create noise that people without project permits cannot make. It sets up this dichotomy where I think it sets up people to get noise complaints called on them because people, I don't know. It sets a double precedent, which I am concerned with. If we made them both 7 a.m. or both 8 a.m., this wouldn't be an issue.
If you're a homeowner or property owner who wants to paint their house or, repair that window that fell or whatever, you're allowed to do it between 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Right.
You don't need a permit for that. It's basic repair. Okay. If it constitutes a permit, then that homeowner or business owner has to come in and get the proper permit. If there's no proper permit and it requires a permit, OCO needs to go out and cite it.
I get that, but so that means Kevin, the OCO, could get a noise complaint from 7 a.m. on a weekday, and then he has to determine if that noise is permitted noise or not. I think that's sort of a ridiculous precedent to set, but
That's what you have right now in the code.
yeah.
Without this,
see.
I've been changing anything tonight.
I agree. I agree that exists. I think that we do need to fix that. Because
It's the problem. The problem that was given to us was, and this was Kevin Hamilton's suggestion, that there are problems with finding contractors to work in town if they can't start until 9 a.m. So that's what we tried to address. And we thought the simplest way to do that was this language that says that type of construction work will be guided by Appendix B.
And it would be problematic if you made a general noise ordinance to be earlier, because then it could be for any reason that you would be versus just noise associated with construction. But I get why I don't think there's any way to do it that wouldn't be at least a little funky.
I see. I completely understand. It's coming from like a resident's perspective as opposed to a contractor's perspective. I think the idea of the noise ordinance was to prohibit exterior noise prior to 8 a.m. So, and I'm not disagreeing with the process that's been gone through. I just think in principle, the idea of protecting quiet hours up until 8 a.m., regardless if it's permitted work or not, is more important than, in some aspects, than getting contractors even out early.
Okay, well, that's a different ask than what we were,
No, I
and
get it.
so if that's something the town council wants ORC to go back and do another paragraph, but right now I think let's go ahead and get this one done and off the table. And then if you want something more specific to control the noise
Yeah,
holistically, then that's something else.
I agree with that, and also that it's still about residents. Like some residents need to hire contractors, and their ability to have someone come in could be impacted if you have rules that basically say, well, right. But yeah, good point.
Yeah,
And
you
again,
know, we can't plan for all eventualities, you know, and all the what ifs in the world. I mean, Zach's got a good point, but Roberta's got a good point too. You know, my take would be, you know, approve this, and if you start getting a lot of complaints, then we'll just go back to the drawing board. I mean, that's a normal course of action in a municipality when they pass regulations, because you can't predict every single thing that's going to happen. So, I mean, that's my take. Anyway.
I think we also have to consider, you know, the challenges of finding people to work in the historic district. You know, it's easier to work at this huge development happening at the edge of Charlestown than it is to come in and work on your 40-foot roof, you know.
And the other caveat you have there's that decibel reading is, you know, whatever the homeowner's doing has to reach that decibel at the edge of his property. Right. 9 times out of 10, the power tool's not going to be at 65 decibels at the edge of the property.
All right, so let's, we got a motion on the floor. Did we get a second? Chris, yeah, Chris got a second. Any other discussion on a motion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed? None. Motion carries.
Nina, I have the black copy for the mayor.
6-0.
Sorry, the mayor to sign. I'm going to give it to him.
Okay.
Okay, and then I guess we'll give it to Melissa or Patty to make sure that you sign it and we get this entered into the record ASAP.
Nina, go ahead with the IOC.
Yeah. So still working with this is just an update for today. Still working with the website company. Right now they're finishing up mapping our entire site, which means that they are going through our site. They are looking at our current site. They're looking at every link that exists, every different category and section that we have, and they're creating essentially a map of what we currently have on our site. And should be most likely complete by the end of this month. So looking at setting up another IOC meeting at the beginning of March to be able to review that, and also meeting with town staff so that we can go through and look at what we want to add section wise. So moving ahead with that. And the town logo, I've had a couple back and forth conversations with them. So I anticipate as well at the March meeting, we should be able to present the logos for kind of final decision and review, so we can come up with a final logo and color scheme.
Thank you, Nina. Any questions for Nina on that? Chris?
Yeah, Nina, if we have suggestions or questions about the website particularly, do you have a process we could follow? Would we just shoot you an email?
I think just shoot me an email. It also goes for anyone in town. If they have any suggestions or things that they'd like to add, just feel free to email me. You can just email the recorder email address or N Armstrong at Harpers Ferry, and I'll make sure to get those included when we have our discussion. But also when we have our discussion towards the beginning of March, I'll make sure that that meeting is posted well in advance so people can attend as well if they'd like to.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Parking committee discussion and action regarding adding NPS parking pass not valid to the bottom of a car mobile sign. Okay, the issue continues to haunt us. People going into the park, paying first, and then they ride around. There's no place to park, and then they come out on Potomac Street and pull in and then Armor Truck goes by and gives them a souvenir coupon for parking there. So what we wanted to do, it was the consensus of the parking committee that we add a small, like 3-4 inches by the, and put it on the bottom of our park mobile sign that says, if you have a park service on your app that says you paid, that's not good here. So.
And will they understand what NPS stands
Yeah.
for? Do we need to
What's that?
We decided to spell out
Yeah, yeah, we'll come up with a, you know, but that's conceptually, that's what needs to be done. We want to get ahead of that tourist season now because it was an issue last year. So anyway, Zach?
Oh, sorry, is this adding a sticker to the current sign or adding a second smaller sign?
Smaller sign, a second one bolted on.
Gotcha.
Is the issue that people are getting the park pass before they find a parking spot?
Yeah.
They don't realize that Potomac Street is not part of the park's park.
Yeah.
A motion?
Yep, go ahead.
Move to add a notification that a National Park Service parking pass is not valid message to the bottom of park mobile signs on Potomac Street.
Second on the motion, second from Zach, discussion on the motion.
discuss and I maybe amend or figure out. So this little sign is going to cost X amount of dollars made out of metal or plastic, right? And does this sign actually need to go get appropriations approved through budget and finance before we do this?
We're looking at minimus amount of money. And I have the authority to up to a certain dollar. That would be an issue.
Okay. All right.
Government budget, I don't see it.
Yeah, but not necessary to go through budget and finance. Okay.
Any
And
other discussion?
how many signs would this be? Every park mobile sign just on Potomac Street or all the way through the town?
No, just Potomac.
Okay.
Just part of it. That's the only area we have problems.
Okay.
So there might be 4 signs down there, Roberta.
Yeah.
We're just going to add a little thing below it.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Nina,
My
you're
hand
quick on
was lower. Sorry, I was too slow.
All right, none opposed, motion carries. 1, 2, 3. I keep forgetting how many are here. 6-0. Okay. All right, Chris, would you reach behind you and get the West Virginia code? Council, I make a motion that we go into executive session according to regulations under West Virginia Code 69A-4, exception to the Open Meeting Act, to discuss matters of appointment and to discuss matters of I had it on my other one. What's the other one? Customer? Yeah, customer notifications. Here's a second on the motion. Second from Zach. Discussion. All those in favor of going to executive session? Okay. All right, we're in executive session. And
Turn off your.
Do we need to bring anybody else with us?
Yeah, I will. Okay, I'm authorizing Debbie and Steve in executive session unless you solicit. Okay.
We're
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yep, and do we need my computer for this now?
Somebody's gonna need to call you, Nina.
Got it.
So
Okay. Not a problem.
whoever has your phone number.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thanks for coming, for listening.
Thank you all for giving me my
We're okay? Yep. Okay, it's, we're out of executive session. It is 10:40 PM. Everyone is present except for George. Storm, are you prepared to make a motion? Go ahead.
I move to an extent, I move to an ex-
They're down to George.
I move to extend an offer to Jacob Lambert to be a full-time Class 2 water operator with the Harpers Ferry Water Works at step 6. Beginning employment date starting April 1.
Thank you. Is there a second on the motion? Second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Motion to adjourn.
No, we have
From
one
Zach, second from Roberta.
Oh, no, I wasn't doing anything, sorry.
You didn't?
No, I had a question. Then we have something else to determine out of the executive session or?
No, because the other, there was no action on the other one. We're gonna wait for the
Yes.
PSC. decision.
Second.
Storm, you second the motion to adjourn. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. We are adjourned at 10:42 PM.